I have a mobile phone in my Dantian. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 451, the most talented of the 20 kings. It is not difficult for them to create a divine art in 12 days, and it can also really show the talent of a king. Master Wang was watching from above. In front of so many Shura kings, even the dominant kings, I must perform well and create a magical art as quickly as possible, which will make a big splash. When I join the Shura king, I will have a high status. Han Feng chose a decree, and his eyes lit up at the moment. He felt that many insights emerged in his mind, and he began to study the magical art confidently. Gun Demon Du Gusheng had a cold face. He was very serious and obviously fighting hard. I have grown up all the way to this point. I have had great opportunities, but more of it is due to my own efforts. Efforts are greater than talent. In terms of talent, I can't compare with Qi Jiang, Beifan, Liu Tong, even Su Dong. Because he knew that he was not talented enough, he worked harder. He stared at a decree and began to practice with a spear in his hand. 12 days was just a blink of an eye in front of these dominant kings and Shura kings. Just 2 days later, the most mysterious Beifan walked directly in front of Master Wang. Disciple Beifan has already realized the divine art of the heavenly god level. He spoke. Immediately, the two Lord Kings and many Shura kings looked at him. Su Dong and other kings also looked over. This Beifan is really fast. Su Dong opened his eyes and glanced at Beifan. This Beifan was mysterious and had a very high talent. In the palace, Beifan waved his palm, and suddenly a bright light flashed in his palm. The light was like thousands of silk threads, which crisscrossed, and each of them could easily break gold and crack stone. Seeing his wonderful art, Su Dong, Qi Jiang and other kings nodded. There was admiration on their faces. Not bad. Master Wang chuckled, and many Shura kings also looked at Beifan with shining eyes. Being praised by Master Wang as not bad was enough to prove his talent and strength. Beifan was taken in by the Shura king of the Wheel Hall. Beifan got ahead of me. I'm almost there with the divine art of the heavenly god level. Han Feng looked unsightly and anxious. The other kings also felt the pressure doubled. The third day, the decree of King Shura of Yama Hall reflected a blood-red scimitar, and the scimitar seemed to gather many mysteries of the way of death. This scimitar is completely a gathering of the mysteries of the way of death. I interpreted it through the core data will consciousness, plus a page of Buddhist scriptures, to peek into the future, and came up with a total of 3 sword techniques. Su Dong was also a little nervous and expectant. In front of so many Lord Kings and Shura Kings, it would be embarrassing if the magic method he created was ordinary. If it took too long, it would not be appropriate. In fact, it was not just him who thought so. Every king present thought so. Even the Silver Knife Realm God and several others came to watch, eager to gain some insights. 3 days, I created 3 sword techniques, all of which reach the level of heavenly gods, and the strongest one is closer to the level of God King. That's enough. Su Dong smiled. He opened his eyes, stood up, and walked to Master Wang, the Lord King of Pan's Hang Mountain. Su Dong also succeeded? How did he do it so fast? Liu Tong narrowed his eyes on his ugly face. Qi Jiang blinked. They all have the blood of innate creatures, and their innate secrets are at a very high level. They are not good at creating, but they think they are better than others. Unexpectedly, Su Dong got there first. Awesome. The Silver Knife Realm God showed a happy look. He seemed happier than when he created his own magic. Su Dong, let's see what magic he created. The goddess Uqiu looked at Su Dong with a frosty face. Su Dong began to perform swordsmanship in the hall. He used his palm to replace the sword. There were 3 swordsmanship in total. The first one was a blood-colored sword light like a meteor, floating across the sky in the hall. It looked ordinary, but each sword light had a magnificent power, and there were a total of 666 sword lights. The power of each sword light was extremely balanced. The second one was an endless blood-colored sword river across the sky. Each stream of water that formed the sword river was a sword light, and the sword river as a whole was another sword light. The third one was a crescent moon. The crescent moon swung out from Su Dong's palm, floating above, and did not dissipate for a long time. This knife made many Shura kings in the hall look surprised. This Sudong is really talented in swordsmanship. The Shura king of Changjiang Hall sighed. In fact, the Shura kings of the 10 halls have a rough idea of the talents of these 20 kings. Sudong's ability to master the swordsmanship of the king of 10,000 swords proves that he has a deep understanding of the swordsmanship and the mysteries of the way of death. Lin Yu has not seen Sudong perform the swordsmanship of the king of 10,000 swords, but when he heard the Shura king of Changjiang Hall admire him, he nodded slightly. He could also feel that Sudong was a terrible competitor. Sudong performed 3 swordsmanship. He fell into the eyes of the Shura king in the upper part of the hall, who was wearing a brocade black robe. He showed a hint of appreciation in his eyes and nodded slightly. No wonder the Lord King of Pan's Hang Mountain greeted me before and took Sudong under his command to teach him well. He observed the young man below. The young man was also dressed in a black robe and had a good temperament. His eyes were very focused. There is also a faint gathering of merit and luck on his body. When you admire a person, you suddenly feel that everything about him is good. This book has been recently updated in #@. Update. This Sudong, even if the Lord of Pan's Hang Mountain doesn't say it, I will take him in. I can't waste such a good seedling. The Shura king of Yama Palace smiled. Master Wang and the Lord of Pan's Hang Mountain looked at Sudong with admiration. Others haven't created a single move yet, but you have created 3 moves directly, and the strongest power has reached the level of God King. You are talented enough. You must work hard, and don't waste your talent in swordsmanship. Master Wang also reminded. This made many Shura kings and kings look at Sudong with envy. Sudong, from now on, you will be my subordinate. The Shura king of Yama Palace stood up. He personally took action, and with a wave of his hand, Sudong automatically moved to his side. The voice of the Shura king of Yama Palace seemed to contain a strange mystery, and it went straight into Sudong's mind. Disciple pays respect to the Shura king of Yama Palace. Sudong saluted hurriedly. He looked at the Shura king of Yama Palace next to him. The latter's face still maintained a youthful appearance, but he could feel an extremely ancient aura on his body. I became the king under the Shura king of Yama Palace. Sudong stood next to this Shura king and suddenly felt that the other Shura kings looked at him differently. Sudong also understood that the Shura kings of the 10 palaces had extremely high status, and the Shura king of Yama Palace was even more famous for killing, and his strength was even more terrifying. With the tide rising, his status naturally rose. However, no matter how high the status is, what is more important is the strength. If the strength is not worthy of the status, it will only make people laugh. Beifan looked at Sudong standing next to the Shura king of Yama Palace from a distance, narrowed his eyes, and sighed softly. I created a move on the 2nd day. He created 3 moves on the 3rd day, and they are much more exquisite than mine. Did he create the 2nd move on the 2nd day? This Sudong is the one with the highest talent and potential among the 20 kings, and he sighed. Next, Jiang Jiu also created a magical technique on the 3rd day and became a member of the Shura king of Taiyang Hall. Qi Jiuang and Liu Tong realized the magical technique on the 5th and 6th day respectively. Qi Jiuang became a member of the Shura king of Wulan Hall, while Liu Tong became a member of the Shura king of Bingdeng Hall. From the 9th to the 12th day, this period is the time when the king's talents burst out. Zhaozu, Silver Blade Realm God, and Goddess Yuqiu all created magical techniques during this period. They were accepted by the Shura kings of various halls. The worst one was Hanfeng. Hanfeng barely created a technique on the 13th day, more than 12 days. None of the 10 Shura kings accepted him, and he finally became a member of a powerful Shura king under the Shura king of Qingyang Hall. It is the state of mind that affects Hanfeng's performance. Master Wang shook his head. It is good to be competitive, but if you are too competitive, you will be jealous. It is easy to have distracting thoughts. The more distracting thoughts you have, the more you will be unable to concentrate. Chapter 452, Buzhao Mountain Cave Mansion Sword Tower. After being worshipped by the Shura kings of the 10 palaces, the kings also attended the banquet. Listening to the 2 Lord Kings and the Shura Kings discussing the Dao, Of course, they were not qualified to sit on an equal footing as the Shurikings of the 10 palaces, but it was not suitable for them to stand all the time, so they were collectively arranged to sit at the back of the hall. In front of each person, there were tables with fairy fruits and nectar containing rich spiritual energy. Sudong and the Silver Knife Realm God sat side by side. A mouthful of fairy fruit and a mouthful of fine wine not only tasted delicious, but also instantly turned into energy raindrops emitting colorful light. The raindrops entered the stomach and dispersed into every cell of the divine body. It felt that every cell of the divine body was strengthened and nourished, split and grow. Even Sudong felt that the strength of his soul had been slightly improved. These fairy fruits and fairy wines are rare treasures, so all the kings ate them without hesitation. Only one king. There was no fairy fruit on the table in front of him, only 2 cups of fairy wine. At this moment, he was sitting alone at the back. His expression was calm, but his eyes were looking outside the hall, as if he was admiring the cloud scenery outside the hall. That Han Feng is really unlucky. After all, he is also a king who won the Mountain and Sea Seal. Among the 20 of us, his strength is not to say that he ranks in the top 5, but he is at least in the top 9. The Silver Knife Realm God communicated with Sudong. Winning the Mountain and Sea Seal is the proof of strength. He actually just worshipped under the name of an ordinary Shuriking. It's his mentality that affected him. If it weren't for the 2 dominant kings, and there were so many Shurikings present, he would definitely perform better. Sudong didn't look at Han Feng much. But no matter whether they looked at him or not, or talked about it or not, Han Feng was destined to be the loser among the 20 kings. That's right. I also feel nervous. Especially after Zhao Zu realized the magic, I was even more nervous. Pressure increases with time and the performance of the companions next to him. Sudong is okay. Sudong is a monster, and the Silver Knife Realm God has long been accustomed to it, but Zhao Zu, he would never admit that he is worse than Zhao Zu, even if he kills the Silver Knife Realm God. He also sent this message to Zhao Zu, who glared at the Silver Blade Realm God. After the king's showdown, the 3 of them had become much closer. The banquet was over. The Lord King of Pan's Han Mountain left first. His aura was so fierce that people dared not look directly at him. Every king secretly wanted to become a strong man like the Lord King of Pan's Han Mountain one day. Finally, Master Wang looked at the 20 kings standing in the hall, including Lin Yu. You 20 are all the most outstanding kings in my Dao mansion in the past 3,000 years. You are all excellent, but I hope that your excellence can be transformed into real strength, and one day you can produce a 10 palace Shuriking, or even a Lord King. Master Wang spoke, his voice resounding in the ears of the 20 kings. Become a powerful Shuriking, and you will be truly famous in the void. Become a dominant king, and you can even open a new era. The Dao mansion can only do its best to assist you to grow faster and stronger, but how far you can grow in the end depends on you. Among you, there are some I'm very optimistic about, and there are also some that Brother Zhao is optimistic about. Work hard and don't let us down. Yes, Master. The 20 kings all bowed and saluted. Everyone felt that their chests were boiling with blood, especially when they heard Master Wang say that he and the dominant king of Pan's Han Mountain were optimistic about them. They were even more excited. The dominant king was optimistic about them, which was a kind of recognition. There is no first in literature, and no second in martial arts. Everyone is a genius, and no one is willing to fall behind. Sudong also felt dazed. This is the beginning of the activation of the Yellow Spring Order, entering the Yellow Spring Road, the king's decisive battle, and then really entering the Yellow Spring Dao Mansion. All the processes are over. Sudong also grew from an ordinary god who was reincarnated into the 9 realms to a powerful king, and behind him was the powerful Yellow Spring Dao Mansion. Moreover, he became a subordinate of the Shuriking of the Yama Palace. Even the ruler of the ancient country of the 9 realms would be polite to him. Of course, not to mention his status. With his current strength, ordinary god emperors and immortal emperors are not his opponents. He has every confidence to fight with the ruler of the 9 realms. This is his real confidence. Just like the Xiao Samsara cave, the ancient corpse cave, a page of Buddhist scriptures, etc. They are all given by the Huanquan Daofu, and they may be transformed into strength. No matter when, strength is the most fundamental, and status and power are just the gifts of strength. From Huanquan Road, to the king's decisive battle, to the king under the command of the Shura King of the 10 Palaces, this is not the end, but just the beginning. My goal is to become the Holy Spirit Void Ancestor and go further. Sudong was very clear in his heart. They are great kings, and they can be compared with the Shura King, the dominant king. They are all at the bottom. The first threshold in front of them at this moment is to become a Holy Spirit. Only by becoming the Holy Spirit Void Ancestor can you be eternal in all eras of the Void, and turn from a meteor into an eternal sun. Sudong left with the Azura King of Yama Palace. Mingjing, you will serve Sudong in the future. Choose a cave for him in Buzzhao Mountain. If there is anything he needs to pay attention to, you should also inform him in advance. The Azura King of Yama Palace was very cold, but Sudong could feel his kindness towards himself. Yes. Among the many servants, a female servant of the God Emperor in a white robe nodded. Sudong's heart skipped a beat. Let a female spirit of the God Emperor serve him? Sudong, you practice the sword technique of the sky, and that sword technique can reach the sky. Don't slack off. If you don't understand anything, you can contact me with the token in your hand. The Azura King of Yama Palace had left his token aura before. I will explain the sword technique and magic skills at the lecture peak of Buzzhao Mountain on the 21st of every month. You can sit next to me and listen. Yes. This book has been updated recently in #@. After saying this, the Azura King of Yama Palace stepped into the clouds and mist and left. His residence was in this heavenly palace, wealth as was on the peaks of Buzzhao Mountain. Master, let's go. Mingjing, the God Emperor level goddess maid, bowed and saluted Sudong. She was surrounded by colorful clouds, beautiful and magical. You don't have to call me master. Sudong couldn't help but speak. Your Highness has already ordered me to serve the master. The master is everything to me. Although I'm a God Emperor, my strength is just average. The master can easily kill me. Mingjing bowed and spoke. She was telling the truth. Sudong could only shake his head helplessly, said let her do it, and then flew with her to the many peaks of Buzzhao Mountain. Sudong and Mingjing flew over the many vacant fairy pavilions and caves on the eastern peak of Buzzhao Mountain. There were fairy pavilions and caves below, some of which were magnificent and far exceeded the Void Temple, some were similar to ancient castles, and some were like ordinary Zhuangzi's courtyards. Sudong was used to living in the Void Temple, so he directly chose a grey and white temple cave that was 1,000 feet high. This temple cave stands on the top of a mountain, shaped like a tall tower, with only Sudong and Mingjing. Sudong projected the scene of the mountain temple into his Huanquan Fu talisman, which would be his residence in the future. Landing in front of the mountain temple, Sudong looked straight ahead and saw a stone tablet standing in front of the temple, on which the name of the temple was engraved. Knife Tower. Sudong was speechless. Who gave this temple tower this name? After a moment, in the Knife Tower, Sudong sat in the hall, and next to him was Mingjing, who respectfully poured tea for Sudong. Master, there are two most important things when entering Huanquan Fu. One is Huanquan fruit, and the other is ranking. Mingjing opened his mouth and explained to Sudong the many rules of Huanquan Fu. This was also Sudong's first day in Huanquan Fu. End of this volume. Chapter 453, Fiercely Competitive Ranked Battle. Sudong hurriedly listened carefully. The Yellow Spring Dao fruit is a magical Dao fruit that originates from the Yellow Spring. It contains a unique energy. When consumed by people below the level of the Divine Emperor and the Immortal Emperor, it can assist in the comprehension of Daoist magic. When consumed by people at the level of the Divine Emperor and the Immortal Emperor, it has a special effect. In our Dao Palace, if you want to obtain the top magic, you need the Yellow Spring Dao fruit. You also need the Yellow Spring Dao fruit to enter many treasured places. In short, you need the Yellow Spring Dao fruit in exchange for everything. Mingjing looked at Sudong. Sudong nodded slightly. He had already understood this a little bit through the Yellow Spring Dao Palace token. The Yellow Spring Dao fruit is similar to the money and wealth in the Dao Palace. Even the qualification to live in this Buzzhao Mountain requires the Yellow Spring Dao fruit in exchange. And he was only granted the right to live for free for 10,000 years, because he was in the top 20 of the king's decisive battle. Of course, the Yellow Spring Dao fruit is so important, so how to obtain more Yellow Spring Dao fruit has become the goal of the kings in the Dao Palace to work together. There are two ways to obtain Huanquan Dao Go. Except for the one chance to enter Huanquan Road, the others are generally awarded by the Dao Mansion. For example, after becoming a 13 Crown King in the ranking battle, you will be rewarded with 100,000 Huanquan Dao Go for each step up to the 19th crown. After becoming the Shura King, you will be rewarded with 500,000 Huanquan Dao Go or 50,000 Samsara Dao Go for each crown you upgrade. Becoming the Domination King, the reward is even more terrible. This is a reward, and there is also a grant. For example, if you create a certain magic method and present it to the Dao Mansion, and get the Dao Mansion's approval, you will be granted Huanquan Dao Go. There are also grants after completing a certain task of the Dao Mansion. In short, the stronger the strength and the better the performance, the more Huanquan Dao Go you can get. Huanquan Dao Go is the wealth of the kings and even the Shura Kings. The more wealth you have, the more comfortable you can live in the Dao Mansion. You can also get many treasures and methods to quickly strengthen your strength. In addition to Huanquan Dao Go, the most important thing is the ranking battle. The ranking battle is the most direct way to reflect the strength and status of each king. There are two ways to conduct the ranking battle. One is to enter the Huanquan Void and randomly fight with the king of the same level, Shura King, and Domination King. The winner will get a crown and the loser will lose a crown. Mingjing took out the Dao Fu talisman from his arms and sensed it. The talisman was like a teleportation array, and a small vortex appeared. The vortex was faintly connected to a huge space. In that space, Sudong could vaguely feel the vast and mighty atmosphere from Huanquan Road. Huanquan runs through the endless void era, and is the foundation of the existence of Huanquan Dao Fu. No matter where you are, you can enter Huanquan through the Dao Fu talisman. This is also the confidence of Huanquan Dao Fu to be known as the top force in the void. There is also a second type, which is a challenge. A challenge is a ranking battle method in which only a low rank challenge a high rank. For example, a 1 Crown King challenges a 9 Crown King. If the challenge is successful, the king will directly obtain the 9 Crown King rank. The king who fails will not lose the rank. However, the challenge requires the payment of Huanquan Dao fruit, which will be returned in full after the victory. If the challenge fails, it will be paid to the challenged person in full. Every king must accept a challenge every month, and the rest can be rejected. This is a means for the Dao Mansion to motivate the kings. If the ranking battle falls out of the category of the 9 Crown King, it may even be expelled from the core era of the Dao Mansion, and sent to many void eras. Moreover, every king, Shura King, and Dominant King must have a ranking battle within half a year. Overed you will lose a crown. Master, you are a newly promoted king. There are advantages for newly promoted kings to participate in ranking battles. The Lord Shura King of the Yama Palace will have rewards. The higher the ranking, the greater the reward. Mingjing said respectfully. Oh. Sudong raised his eyebrows, and then he understood. 19 kings worshipped under the 10 palaces of Shura Kings. Each Shura King naturally hoped that his king would make a big splash. The 10 palaces of Shura Kings would not be stingy if their kings performed well. The Shura King of the Yama Palace had previously asked the servant to pass on a message to the master. As long as the master can become a Shura King within 3 years, he will give the master 600,000 Huanquan Dao fruits. 600,000? Sudong was surprised. His king won the Shanhei Seal King True Talent in the decisive battle, and was awarded 200,000 Huanquan Dao fruits. When he reached the Shura King level, he was rewarded with 600,000. In the past 3 years, those newly promoted kings, who had not been trained by the Dao Mansion in the past, have many extraordinary ones. Once they are trained, their strength will have a period of rapid development. Mingjing said softly, and Sudong suddenly understood. That is to say, in the past 3 years, the 10 palaces of Shura Kings will give huge rewards to encourage their kings to practice, and the higher the ranking, the better. The competition will be fierce. Master's talent is recognized as the best among the 20 kings this time, and he will definitely take the top spot. Mingjing said with a smile. Not necessarily. Sudong shook his head. The ranking battle depends on strength. Talent is only a part of the influence of strength. Opportunity and hard work also have a great influence. That day, Sudong's temple, Sword Tower, became lively. Mingjing summoned many ordinary people in the cave he carried with him, and the ordinary people took care of all the mundane affairs in his temple. Sudong also learned that the mountain and sea realm void era was one of the most important areas of Huangquan Daofu. Huangquan Daofu was the leader of the three top forces that shocked the void, and the core was the legendary Daofu. The second was Buzhao Mountain in the mountain and sea realm void and Liu Daoyuan in the Samsara void. The three major areas constituted the highest ruling layer of Huangquan Daofu. For example, the mountain and sea realm void was guarded by Master Wang. Buzhao Mountain was the absolute holy place of this void. Unless summoned, only Shura kings with 9 crowns or above were qualified to enter the heavenly palace on the top of the mountain. In addition to the Shura king who was granted authority, the peaks under Buzhao Mountain strictly prohibited the appearance of gods and immortals, so the kings and servants here were all ordinary people. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. There are no gods at all. And the mountain and sea realm era void is an extremely secretive void. If the kings want to leave, they need to pay a high fee to ask the powerful Shura king to escort them through the era void. The fee is naturally the Huangquan Dao fruit. Here, even my void temple cannot penetrate. The void temple is said to be able to travel through the void, but it is a restricted area here. But my core data, will and consciousness are common, and I can communicate with the 5-colored stone clone. In the sword tower, Mingjing went to practice. Although she was Sudong's servant maid, she was also a member of the Dao mansion. She also wanted to be strong, and practiced hard every day. However, Mingjing's natural appearance was far inferior to Sudong and other rebellious kings. In the Void Temple, Sudong's 5-colored stone clone, who had received a lot of information, was talking to Feng Laorang's Heng next to him. There are 3 methods of practice in the Huangquan Dao Mansion, namely the Huangquan Divine Sutra, the 6 Dao Divine Secrets, and the Yuanshi Heart Seal. Each method of practice leads directly to the level of the Holy Spirit Void Ancestor, or even higher. Sudong checked through the Dao Mansion token. Daoism is the key to realm improvement. But Sudong didn't care. Because his core data is natural growth, lighting up the stars can quickly break through. So far, there are no shackles. I worshipped under the command of King Shura of Yama Palace. The first part of the 3 Daoism is free, and the middle and last parts require the consumption of Huangquan Dao fruit. Sudong's 5-colored stone clone shook his head. Be content, this is a Daoism that directly leads to the level of the Holy Spirit Void Ancestor. If it is placed in the void, it can easily cause a huge storm. Well, everyone has this method. It's second. The most important thing is the Book of Life and Death. The 5-colored stone clone frowned slightly. This Book of Life and Death is indeed a powerful magic weapon. Thanks to the boss of Only Love Life ZN, Guyi V Kansu for the reward. Chapter 454 The Terrifying Book of Life and Death. The Book of Life and Death, bestowed by Master Wang, is said to be a replica of the real Book of Life and Death. The king can recognize the master by infiltrating the power into the Book of Life and Death. The Book of Life and Death is a magic weapon that can grow. The Book of Life and Death is divided into 9 levels. The first level Book of Life and Death can increase the power of the secret of life and death tenfold. This is the effect of the magic weapon Book of Life and Death. No matter what magic or Taoist method, as long as you master the Book of Life and Death, you can increase the power tenfold, which is comparable to Sudong's extreme mode increase. And this is the effect of the first level Book of Life and Death. The second level Book of Life and Death can increase the power of the secret of life and death 20 times. And so on. It can eventually increase the power 90 times. How amazing. Sudong felt crazy when he saw it. In the past, he thought that his cultivation of the Taoist tradition was extraordinary, and he himself was a unique existence. But when he came into contact with the magic weapon such as the Book of Life and Death, he felt that he was just a frog in the well. The horror of the Yellow Springs Dao Mansion was beyond his imagination. And most importantly, the Book of Life and Death can peek into life and death. Sudong's 5-colored stone clone had a heavy face. Sudong, the Tuoshi body in the Blade Tower of the Buzhao Mountain Temple, also had a heavy face. Feng Laorong Zhi and Sudong were connected in spirit, so he could naturally see everything Sudong saw. Sudong held the Book of Life and Death in his hand. He touched the Book of Life and Death with his palm, and a message suddenly appeared. Sudang, a human being of the Six Paths primordial being, was first born on the Earth of the Void in the 3000 Worlds era. His lifespan was 16 years, and then he changed his fate against the will of heaven, and parasitized the world of the Void Jin Dynasty in the Middle Ages, with a lifespan of 26 years. He was reborn as a congenital creature of the five-colored stone, by using the Void reincarnation talisman, and then split into Tuyoshi's body, with a lifespan of 900 and 160,000 years. Feng Lao Rong Zhi was completely stunned. He knew that the Book of Life and Death was terrible, and that the Yellow Spring Dao Palace controlled the birth and destruction of living beings, but it was actually so terrible. Sudang, have you changed your fate against the will of heaven? Feng Lao Rong Zhi blinked. This was a big secret, but it was recorded in the Book of Life and Death. Sudang nodded slightly. With his strength at this point, there was nothing to hide. I guess so. An accident. Sudang could only summarize it this way. Accidental crossing. He used to think that his physical body crossing was not considered dead, but the Book of Life and Death records that his lifespan in the 3000 Worlds era was only 16 years, so he was considered dead. As for the Jin Dynasty, his lifespan was superimposed on the previous calculations. He eventually encountered the Stone Ghost. Later, his life changed, and he used the Void Reincarnation Talisman to reincarnate into the 9 worlds, and became a 5-colored stononate creature. Tuyoshi's physical body was just a created clone, so it was not counted in the Book of Life and Death. It is recorded in the Book of Life and Death, because I'm still in the 6 paths of reincarnation. Sudang felt deeply the horror of the Book of Life and Death at this moment. Now his 5-colored stone clone is a god king, and Tuyoshi's physical body has a bloodline that is against the sky, and his lifespan is more than 900,000 years. But his lifespan is still finite. Of course, his will last forever, but whether will counts as life is another matter. Feng Lao, do you want to check yours? Sudang said. Check. Feng Lao Rongzi did not hesitate. Sudang's mind moved, and the 4 characters Feng Lao Rong Zhi were automatically written on the Book of Life and Death. Then a message appeared on the Book of Life and Death. Feng Lao Rong Zhi, a 6-path primate human, was born in the Void in the Middle Ages. His yang lifespan is 6,162 years. His yin lifespan is 30,000 years. Yin lifespan? Sudang was stunned. Feng Lao Rong Zhi stared at the Book of Life and Death in front of her. Her eyes were faintly red, and she whispered, "When my master asked me to reincarnate in the Void, he once said that there would be a strong man who was not inferior to him to kill my soul. After destroying my soul, I will wander in the yin and yang worlds in a state of neither life nor death. This is yin lifespan." Sudang's 5-colored stone clone turned his head and looked at Feng Lao Rong Zhi. A hint of coldness flashed in his eyes. When the Holy Spirit Void Ancestor is strong enough, he will naturally seek justice for Feng Lao Rong Zhi. I have obtained the Book of Life and Death. I control all the living beings that can be found in this Book of Life and Death. I won't mention the dead who cannot be resurrected. After Sudang recognized the Book of Life and Death as his master, many messages entered his mind. The Book of Life and Death is just a book that records life and death. To put it bluntly, the king who controls the Book of Life and Death is like an accountant who manages life. He cannot really affect life and death. For example, the king who controls the Book of Life and Death doesn't like a strong man, so he directly crosses out the life of that strong man and kills that strong man. It's impossible. It's just that you can add a few strokes, or subtract a few strokes, and it can be done by spending a lot of Huanquandao fruit, of course. Money can make the devil push the mill, and with enough Huanquandao fruit, you can completely set a person's reincarnation, and rebirth. However, the premise is that the person has died, but has not yet entered reincarnation. I control the Book of Life and Death, so I naturally hide my own information. This is also a great use of the Book of Life and Death. Even the king who has the Book of Life and Death cannot find out the origin of the Book of Life and Death. Feng Lao, I will definitely help you reincarnate, set foot on the immortal road again, and become a generation of heavenly goddess. Sudang said with a smile. Reincarnate? That will cost a lot. Feng Lao Rongzi said. It does cost some Huanquandao fruit, but they are just trivial matters. Master Wang rewarded me with 200,000 Huanquandao fruit. Sudong looked like a rich man. In any case, don't delay your cultivation. You just entered Huanquandao mansion, and Mingjing said that these 3 years are very important to you. Well, I know. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Sudong nodded slightly. He checked the Book of Life and Death. There are 2 ways to get Feng Lao out of this state. One is to release her true spirit. Use the Book of Life and Death to protect her body. Let her true spirit flow into the Huanquan Road and reincarnate again. Although there will be some memory loss, the cost is very small. It's just that the reborn Feng Lao is another person. Another way is to use the Huanquandao fruit to smash her lifespan. If it was just immortal, it wouldn't cost much to increase the lifespan. But Feng Lao Rongzi was a god king in the past. He was extremely talented, had a great opportunity, and had a master at the level of Holy Spirit Void Ancestor behind him, and also used the Void Reincarnation Talisman to prolong his life. As a result, it would cost a lot to increase Feng Lao's lifespan. A rough calculation shows that if Feng Lao is to be successfully reincarnated as a congenital creature, at least nearly 500,000 Huanquandao fruits will be needed. If it was less, he would have done it right away. But the amount was too large, and he couldn't even take it out now. Sudong, once you enter Huanquandao mansion, every Huanquandao fruit is very important. I'm not in a hurry. Feng Lao Rongzi shook his head. Sudong just smiled and nodded. Don't worry. He put his mind back. In the sword tower, Sudong sat cross-legged. Among the 3 Taoist methods, he chose the Huanquan Shenzeng Sutra. That fit him very well. The Taoist method mainly improves the realm, divine power and some strange magical powers. If others knew that he could improve his realm without practicing Taoism, it would be too evil. Like the 3 Dao methods of Huanquandao Fu, each of them can improve the realm as efficiently as the autonomous growth of his core data will consciousness, which can once again glimpse the horror and heritage of Huanquandao Fu. Of course, it also makes Sudong feel the pressure doubled, which proves that he will no longer have the advantage in realm. The kings who enter the Dao Fu will quickly improve, and he, the realm of core data will consciousness is God King, so he will also break through to God King in a short time. In Huanquandao Fu, everything is determined by the rank. No matter how high the realm is, if the rank is not high, it is still a weakling. I want to get a lot of Huanquandao fruit. The fastest way is to participate in the ranking battle. 3 years. Don't rush. Just once a month in the early stage. I will hone my swordsmanship first, and my body skills are also very important. My body skills are my shortcomings, and I also need to improve my divine body and soul. Cheyenne Weishan swordsmanship. Even the Shura King of Yanluo Palace said that it can reach the sky, so naturally I can't slack off. Body skills are his shortcomings, so I need to make up for it. And the soul secret method requires improving the strength of the soul. Because of the different time and space latitudes, after 6 days of staying in Buzzhao Mountain, 6 months have passed in the 9 realms. This day is the winter solstice. The soul fruit planted by Sudong's 5-colored stone clone in the 1-acre field of heaven and earth to increase his soul has finally matured. His soul will soon be able to be qualitatively improved again. Chapter 455 The stronger you are, the poorer you are. The soul secret method Dragon Elephant Kun Divine Bell is a method of cultivation that relies purely on the strength of the soul. It is not difficult at all. As long as you spend enough heaven and earth crystals, you can easily get an upgrade. Because of the sharing of core data, will and consciousness, Sudong's 5-colored stone clone and Tiyoshi's body share the same soul level. When the 5-colored stone clone reaches the level of God King, Tiyoshi's body soul will reach the level of God King. However, the realm is different. In theory, if the 5-colored stone clone does not break through the level of God Emperor Immortal Emperor, his Tiyoshi's body cannot break through. The bloodline shackles of the 5-colored stone clone are now at the level of God King. If you want to break through the level of God Emperor Immortal Emperor, you also need a lot of heaven and earth treasures. On the winter solstice, after Sudong's 5-colored stone clone swallowed several soul heart fruits, in his soul ocean, the broad and surging soul sea rushed and flowed, and the colorful light of 5 colors exuded a terrible pressure. The strength of the soul at the level of God King was strengthened again. The entire soul ocean began to boil. The entire Sea of Souls was boiling and burning, and finally the Sea of Souls soared directly to the level of souls and immortal emperors, while his divine body realm was still that of a god king. The blood of the innate creature god king broke through to the level of the god emperor. The treasures and resources of heaven and earth needed to overcome the bloodline shackles are worth about 1 trillion heaven and earth crystals. I'm not only short of Huanquandeo fruit, but also of heaven and earth crystals. In the Buzhao Mountain Sword Tower, Sudong paid the fee for the second level of the Dragon Elephant Kun God Bell, while sighing at his bottomed out heaven and earth crystals. Unlike Qi Wang, Liu Tong, and the great light god Qilin Lin Yu, whose bloodlines were born extremely powerful and directly reached the level of the god emperor and immortal emperor, he not only had many bloodline shackles, but also had no big background. His expenses were huge recently. Not only did he consume a lot of heaven and earth crystals using the eternal time and space, but even the soul secret method in the 5-colored stone bloodline shackles breakthrough required a lot of wealth. This caused the heaven and earth crystals in Sudong's pocket to decrease rapidly. But there was no other way. The resources and wealth needed for cultivation were too huge. This was in addition to the 4 small worlds he had in the 9 realms to create wealth for him, plus the gifts from the 9 realms lord and many other god emperors. But as his strength grew, Sudong inevitably became poorer and poorer. After paying a large amount of heaven and earth essence crystals, the second level of the soul secret technique Dragon Elephant Kun Divine Bell was completed. With the same soul level breakthrough, his many perceptions of the origin of the way of death were also rapidly improved. The soul of the god emperor immortal emperor level is the highest limit that the life level can reach, and the higher is the Holy Spirit. In the Zumi Buddha kingdom, while practicing swordsmanship and palm techniques, Sudong peeped into the mysteries of the way of death through a page of Buddhist scriptures. He watched and experienced it very seriously, and through a page of Buddhist scriptures, he could peek into many flaws in his palm and sword techniques. The 5-colored stone clone began to frantically kill monsters in the 9 realms, often going deep into the demon capital and the 10,000 demon caves of the 9 realms, and even driving the void temple, rushing out of the 9 realms, and traveling in the void. With his 5-colored stone god king realm strength, plus the mountain impact method, and his achievements in the sword technique of the sky. Although the 5-colored stone clone is not suitable for sword technique comprehension, his soul and will are shared with the Tuosh clone. The sword technique comprehension achievements of Tuosh's flesh can also be used by the 5-colored stone clone. Therefore, although the 5-colored stone clone is only a congenital creature at the level of the god king, its strength is so strong that it is close to the top level of the god emperor and the immortal emperor. In the Middle Ages, it can walk sideways in the void. While killing monsters, it obtains a large amount of heaven and earth crystals and treasures. Its life is much more exciting than Tuosh's flesh body, who is immersed in cultivation in Buzhao Mountain. Buzhao Mountain. On the 12th day of Sudong's soul breakthrough, Master, the voice of the goddess Mingjing, came from outside the Sword Tower temple. What's the matter? Sudong, who was sitting cross-legged in the temple, opened his eyes. There was a dead light in his eyes, which flashed and disappeared. He looked at Mingjing, who was waiting respectfully outside the temple. King Yangning is here to visit, Mingjing said respectfully. Silver Knife. Sudong smiled. Living in Buzhao Mountain, the only people he had a slightly better relationship with were Silver Knife Realm God and Zhaozu. Zhaozu was cold, so he was naturally closer to Silver Knife Realm God. As for Qi Wang, he was not close to any of the 3 of them. Sudong stood up and personally went out of the Sword Tower to greet him. He brought Silver Knife Realm God into his own temple Sword Tower, and Silver Knife Realm God looked at him with envy. The difference is too big. We live in the West Peak. Not only is the spiritual energy of Taoism thinner, but the cave is much smaller. Moreover, the Shuriking of Yama Temple actually sent you a goddess at the level of the Divine Emperor. Envy. Too much envy. Are you here to visit my cave? Sudong glanced at him. I'm here to give you a gift. Silver Knife Realm God blinked. Then he flipped his hand and took out a rather luxurious storage bag. He threw it directly to Sudong. Sudong took it. With a sweep of his divine power, a look of surprise suddenly appeared on his face. So many heaven and earth essence crystals? A full 100 million heaven and earth essence crystals. The Silver Knife Realm God smiled. What's the matter? Sudong said with a smile. Well, a small matter. a prince of the Lord of Shiandi Kingdom in Arjiuhua Mountain, has the strength of a god king, but his talent is average. Now he is approaching his death. He has used all the treasures that extend his life. If he does not break through to the God Emperor Immortal Emperor, he will die within 3 years. So he specially entrusted me to ask you to make a mark on his life book, which is only 100 years of life. The Silver Knife Realm God also stretched out his finger. To increase the life of a god king by 100 years, it only takes dozens of Huanquindeo fruits. The price of a Huanquindeo fruit is only hundreds of thousands of heaven and earth essence crystals in the Deo Palace. He directly gave 100 million heaven and earth essence crystals. This deal is very cost effective. It does not involve reincarnation. Extending or reducing life is easy for the king who controls the Book of Life and Death. As for Huanquindeo fruit, it is a treasure, and heaven and earth essence crystals are the money and currency of the void in various eras. Naturally, it can be converted. You know so clearly? Sudong looked at the Silver Knife Realm God in surprise. The latter did not have the Book of Life and Death, but he was so clear about the price of increasing or decreasing the life in the Book of Life and Death. This is the market practice. In the outside world, there are even kings who openly use the Book of Life and Death to make money. The Silver Knife Realm God smiled and said, there is no way. Gods and immortals are also lives. They are also human beings. Everyone is afraid of death. Sudong nodded. This book has been updated recently in .. Update. Tell me the name of this person. If he has done many evil things, you should find someone else. Jiuhua Mountain, Ubi. The Silver Knife Realm God said a name. Sudong took out the Book of Life and Death, and waved his hand on the Book of Life and Death. A ray of information emerged. It records Yuba's life. Lifespan. The Silver Knife Realm God's eyes lit up. So much killing. Sudong saw that Yuba had a lot of killing in his life. It's normal for the strong to rise and kill people in anger. The Silver Knife Realm God said. Sudong glanced at him. Just 100 years. Sudong's divine power flashed at his fingertips, and after paying the price of 96 Huanquindeo fruits, he increased Yuba's life by 100 years. Nearly 1 fruit per year. The Book of Life and Death was connected to the king's divine power, and then disappeared. Sudong also put away the storage bag in his hand. Does Yubi have a close relationship with you? No relationship. It's just that my master is the Saint Lord of Jiuhua Mountain. I have many senior brothers and junior brothers, and I owed a lot of favors to some of them in the past, and I can't push them away. The Silver Knife Realm God said with a bitter face. Sudong couldn't help but laugh. This may be the pain of people with a big background and many connections. By the way, Sudong, have you heard that Han Feng has been promoted 6 crowns in the ranking battles in the past 2 days, and now he is a king with 15 crowns. He is advancing so fast. The Silver Knife Realm God spoke again. I also tried to rush the ranking, but it was very difficult to defeat the king, and promoted 1 crown. I dare not rush the 11th crown king for the time being. Rushing to the ranking, it's okay if you win, but you will lose if you lose. It was difficult for him to win the first game, and the Silver Knife Realm God lost his momentum. Han Feng, the image of the king in green robes, and with a strong desire to win emerged in Sudong's mind. It had only been a few days, and the latter had reached the 15th crown in one go. Chapter 456 Battle Power Ladder. According to the rules, our newly promoted kings must strive to rank up in the past 3 years. The higher the better. The Silver Knife Realm God sighed. The idea was very good, but he knew it after a try. The king of Huanquan Road was terrible. When he was ranked in Huanquan Road, he rushed all the way to the 9 crown king with Sudong's help. His starting point was very high. Later, when the king's strength increased in the decisive battle, it was Sudong who helped him to keep the river seal. His 9 crown king's rank was watered. Like Qi Jiuang, his rank was only 7 crowns, but his strength was much greater than his, so he would definitely rise quickly. He participated in a game, and won by chance, but he lost his courage. Han Feng was holding his breath. He wanted to prove himself. Sudong also understood. After all, as one of the kings who won the mountain and sea seal, Han Feng had the strength. But he lost so much in front of Master Wang, the Lord of Pan's Han Mountain and other powerful people. It is normal to be unbalanced and angry. In addition, Han Feng's competitive spirit is so strong. Go for it. In 3 years, every king will strive for the ranking. What's important is not how high you can climb temporarily, but how high you can climb in the end. Su Dong was very calm. The 10 Shura kings were also very calm. Han Feng, a small man with a bad character, was destined to be out of their sight. The west peak of Buzhao Mountain. On a very inconspicuous peak, there is a cave directly carved out of the cave. 2 willow trees are planted on both sides of the cave. This is the most deserted cave among the many caves. In the cave, King Han Feng, dressed in a green robe, sat there. His face was calm, and his eyes were cold and full of sinister. He practiced the magic of ghosts and gods that shocked the void for an era. The magic of ghosts and gods touches the origin of the way of death, which can be said to be unprecedented in history. Being able to stand out from the 462 kings and win a mountain and sea seal proved his strength. A bunch of idiots, testing the talent of Taoism. Don't you think that we can rise all the way to win the mountain and sea seal? How can our talent be bad? He hated the 10 palaces Shura king. He also hated Master Wang. He didn't think that there was anything wrong with his character. Then Su Dong, Liu Tong, Jiang Jiu. Can they compare with me? Wait, I will rush higher all the way. In 3 years, I will become the strongest king, and let you know how bad your vision is. He wanted to use his strength to slap the face of the 10 palaces Shura king. Brother Han. A soft voice came from outside the cave. Hearing this voice, Han Feng's originally sinister eyes suddenly became gentle, and he quickly got up and went out to greet her. After a while, he welcomed a female king into the cave. He looked at the woman in front of him with extremely gentle eyes. The latter had a pretty face and an excellent figure. Her eyes had a pair of autumn water-like luster. Whether it was mortals or gods, beautiful women were always the most beautiful pursuits for men, and Han Feng was no exception. The woman in front of him, in terms of appearance and charm, may not be as good as the goddess Yuling, and may even be on the same level as Zhao Zu and Yuqiu, but her eyes seem to be particularly clear and weak. People can't help but have a desire to pity her and protect her. Of course, she is also extremely gentle and charming. Even Han Feng can't help but feel an irresistible desire when facing her. Instinctively, he wants to possess this woman. Can you come to see me again? Brother Han has made great progress and has been promoted to 6 crowns, becoming a 15 crown king. Now he is the first among many kings, suppressing Su Dong, Qi Jiang, Liu Tong and others. Naturally, I have to come to congratulate you. The woman looked at him with gentle and admiring eyes. Han Feng only felt that his chest was burning with blood. After a moment, GK left Han Feng's cave. After Han Feng sent her thousands of miles away from the mountain, the gentleness on GK's face disappeared, leaving only indifference and indifference. Adding icing on the cake is never as good as sending charcoal in the snow. Now everyone looks down on Han Feng. Maybe Han Feng will really rise in the future and become a powerful man. Then I will make a lot of money. The goddess of the clear sky, GK, was extremely calm. What gentleness, what respect, that was all pretended. She had no interest in Han Feng at all. Originally, all my chips were on Zhang Zifeng, who knew that Zhang Zifeng was so unlucky that he was eliminated by Jiang Jiu in the king's decisive battle. He didn't even have the qualifications to stay in Buzhao Mountain. Among the remaining kings, Liu Tong was a fierce beast. Qi Jiang was too cold. Only Beifan, Jiang Jiu, and Su Dong could approach him. Her biggest target was Beifan, Jiang Jiu, and Su Dong. Han Feng was just forgotten in the corner, and she came to leave a seed. Among so many kings, I'm most optimistic about Su Dong, who has the highest talent and the greatest potential. GK recalled the scene in the king's decisive battle, when Su Dong repelled Zhang Zifeng and shone brightly in the heavenly palace. The performance of the heavenly sword technique was so powerful and majestic. Su Dong doesn't have a Taoist partner either. It doesn't matter if he has one. When a strong man rises, he needs different Taoist partners at different stages. At this stage, I'm the most suitable one for him. GK didn't hide the fact that she was attracted to Su Dong. This was different from Han Feng. She was willing to invest more in Su Dong. He watched GK leave. Han Feng looked at the graceful figure like a willow leaf in the wind disappearing into the horizon. He clenched his fist under his robe. Kenna, watch, I will break through the God King and become the strongest among the kings. I will never let you down. Once you enter the Huanquan Dao mansion, you will first receive the teachings of the Dao, and your realm will advance by leaps and bounds. This is the first reason. The second reason is that there are many treasures in the Huanquan Dao mansion, which can also help your strength soar. The third reason is that with the guidance of the Shura King, you can have a bird's eye view and make greater progress in strength. This book has been updated recently in update. At 3 o'clock, it is destined that the kings who have just entered the Yellow Spring Dao mansion will have a period of rapid growth in strength. 1 month later, on the eastern peak of Buzha Mountain, GK landed in front of the towering Sword Tower Temple, looking at the goddess Mingjing in front of her with great courtesy. Please inform that King GK is here to pay a visit to Brother Sudang. My master is in retreat. He will not see anyone. Goddess Mingjing just looked at GK calmly. This month, the goddess King Kong has come 3 times, and her master has not even let her in. Retreat? The smile on GK's face froze for a moment. Qi Jiawang, Liu Tong and the others have already rushed to the 15th crown of the king. Even Han Feng has rushed to the 17th crown. Brother Dao worships under the Shura King of Shura Palace, and has not participated in the qualifying competition. It has affected Brother Dao's reputation. This is my master's business, so there is no need to trouble the king to worry. The aura of the goddess Mingjing, the goddess emperor, was still far superior to GK, who was only a world god. GK was choked. She went to Sudang's house 3 times, but she didn't even see him. Inside the sword tower, in Sudang's soul, his soul incarnation was passing through the bronze Manali in Zumi Buddha kingdom, and landed in front of a page of Buddhist scriptures, observing his 7th level of Shian Weishan sword skill. Suddenly, his eyes opened. A month. King Shura of Yama Palace didn't urge me, and I also decided to have a ranking battle once a month. Let's do it today. Sudang turned his palm. The command talisman of Huanquan Dao Fu appeared in his palm, and divine power was poured into it. Suddenly, the center of the command talisman twisted, and a vortex channel appeared. The vortex channel continued to extend and expand, and then enveloped Sudang completely. At the same time as the vortex channel unfolded, a golden list appeared in front of Sudang. The list was reflected in front of him, exuding a magnificent power. Battle Power Ladder List. Sudang looked over. Chapter 457. The first ranked battle. Huanquan Dao Fu is known as the top 3 forces in the void. There are countless kings and 19 crown ranks. However, the strength of the same rank is uneven. For example, can the strength of Silver Knife Realm God be compared with Sudang, who is also a 9 crown king? Now that Silver Knife Realm God has become a 10 crown king, is his strength stronger than Sudang? Rank is a benchmark for measuring the strength of the strong. However, because the battles are all carried out in the Huanquan plane space, Huanquan Dao Fu can get a detailed picture of the combat power of a king. For the same rank, the more outrageous the performance, the stronger the natural strength. If the combat power is weak, the higher the rank, it is easy to be challenged by other kings. The combat power ladder list records the top 100 strong men in each major rank. Like Sudang is a king, when he enters the ranking battle plane, the combat power ladder list he sees is the king ladder list. The king ladder records the 19 crown kings, and the real strong men who are ranked in the top 100 in combat power are just one step away from becoming Shura kings, and their combat power is extremely strong. Sudang glanced at the battle power ladder in front of him. His eyes were immediately filled with fighting spirit when he saw the 100 names on the list. The top 100 kings are the 119 crown kings with truly heaven-defying battle power among the countless kings in Huanquan Dao Fu. One step away is Shura King. There are 2 ways for 19 crown kings to rank up to Shura King. One is the normal ranking. You must win 9 battles in 9 to be promoted to Shura King. In the 9th battle, the opponent must be Shura King. This is the promotion battle. The second is to challenge Shura King directly. Although it will cost a lot of Huanquan Dao fruit, and will cost a heavy price if you lose, there are still many people who choose to challenge, especially those kings with extremely high strength and incomparable confidence. Because it is necessary to win 9 battles in a row, so many strong people are stuck in the king rank. When it comes to the 19 Crown King, no one can guarantee which monster they will encounter in the 9 battles. The number 1 in the combat power ladder list is called Luo. This King Luo has won 8 battles and 8 qualifying battles, and he only needs 1 battle to be promoted to the Shura King. But looking at his battle record, the last time he attempted to reach the Shura King rank, he also won 8 battles and 8. Later, he was defeated by an Shura King named Yao. That's why he has been stuck in the King rank, but his combat power is incomparable, ranking first. If he fails again in the 9th battle, and has to start over with 9 battles as the 19 Crown King, then the 19 Crown King will be unlucky to meet him, and he will be a gift of points. The goal set by the Azura King of Yama Palace is to reach the Azura King within 3 years. It is indeed a bit difficult, and the reward is not so easy to get, but it is fun only when there is difficulty. Sudong's eyes were full of high fighting spirit. He no longer looked at the battle power ladder, but directly entered the vortex channel, and started his first regular ranking battle. Swish. In the Yellow Spring Plain. The mighty Yellow Spring is boundless, and a vast breath flows. Sudong does not know how far he has penetrated. He walked out of the vortex channel, and the sound of waves in the Yellow Spring came into his ears. He saw the pale golden waves in front of him surging. Immediately, he was standing on a stage. The stage was tens of thousands of kilometers long and wide. Such a huge stage was like a floating small cube in the vast Yellow Spring. The stage was empty. Sudong was still dressed in a black robe. He held a long sword in his hand, and there was a faint golden light on his body. The mark of the 9 Crown King appeared between his eyebrows. As expected, I can't use magic weapons. If I can use the life and death book to increase my strength, I can increase my strength tenfold. In the ranking battle, it is set that no magic weapons can be used, and even the life and death book will lose its effect. My unlucky opponent. A laugh suddenly came from the ring. Boom. A stream of light fell on the ring out of thin air. The stream of light fell and dissipated, revealing a king who was 6 or 7 meters tall. This king was extremely burly, holding a golden-backed broadsword, wearing simple cloth clothes, and the same shining mark of the 9 Crown King on his forehead. But his eyes were full of high confidence, standing there and staring at Sudong, as if looking at prey. A strange face I haven't seen before, or a world god. Defeat you, and I will be the 10 Crown King. He grinned. He had just broken through the God King, and his divine power was stronger and stronger. Let's start. Sudong was too lazy to say more. Boom. The tall king's eyes burst into brilliant divine light, and a powerful soul impact instantly entered Sudong's soul sea, which was extremely brutal, like a ferocious beast, trying to tear Sudong's soul completely apart. Soul attack. Sudong snorted coldly, and the dragon elephant cum divine bell emerged, and the 3 giant beasts roared to the sky at the same time. The powerful soul of the divine emperor level suddenly burst out with terrible power. But it resisted the impact of the soul secret method, and then the bell body shook, and the soul secret method impact rebounded back even more powerfully. Not good. The tall king's face changed, knowing that he had met a tough guy. He wanted to rely on the soul secret method of the divine king level to directly crush and defeat this king, but he didn't expect to be defeated. Then the soul impact that rebounded made him dizzy, and the front fell into darkness. Wake up! The tall king roared. He suddenly opened his eyes, and Sudong in front of him was already waving a long sword. The long sword was surrounded by a dark blade. It was like a dark blade meteor, rushing straight over. I'll teach you how to use a blade. The tall king grinned, swung the golden-backed broadsword in his hand, and collided with Sudong. But just after the collision, Sudong instantly used his sword technique, the 5th level of the Xian Wei Xian sword technique, the extinction sword, and a dark storm spread out from the sword light. A dark sun rose, and fell in the storm. The power was too terrifying. The Xian Wei Xian sword technique was good at head-on collision and frontal bombardment. In addition, Sudong now realized the King of 10,000 sword technique, and using this extinction sword was simply a breeze, easy and casual. But the power of the sword technique was so strong that it was terrifying. This sword technique? The tall king was suddenly stunned, and his long hair was flying wildly. The whole body retreated wildly, like a flash of lightning, directly retreating to the back. Cut. Sudong's eyes were cold, and he shouted violently. Anyone who has seen the king's duel knows that the swordsman Sudong is calm and reserved when he does not attack, but he is violent and terrifying when he attacks, just like his swordsmanship. Once he attacks, he will suppress and destroy all enemies. The tall king could not retreat. Puff. The sword light instantly tore the king's divine body, and the divine blood gushed out. The tall king turned into a stream of yellow particles and disappeared on the stage. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Swish. A vortex appeared behind Sudong, which enveloped him and also disappeared. East peak of Buzhao Mountain, inside the temple sword tower. Sudong's figure appeared again, and the king's mark on his forehead changed from 9 crowns to 10 crowns. Very easy. Sudong smiled. His strength is definitely far beyond the level of the 9 crown king. If I use the king of 10,000 swordsmanship, I should be able to rank around the 18 crown king. Extremely confident. The king of 10,000 swords, Sudong's strongest swordsmanship now. Once it is performed, even Liu Tong, who has unleashed a magical skill, can only retreat. However, it is only the 18 crown king. Sudong has no confidence in going higher, because those who can reach that level are all monsters among kings. Whether it is power, body movement, realm, or magic, they are all first class. My swordsmanship is strong, but my body movement and realm are all weaknesses. As long as there are weaknesses, there will be flaws. If there are flaws, failure will eventually come. In terms of realm, my 5-colored stone clone must gather enough materials to break through the shackles of blood, then solve the problem of body movement first. Sudong secretly made up his mind that he must not only have a strong swordsmanship, but also a strong body movement, and never show the kind of weakness he had when fighting Zhang Zifeng. Chapter 458, King Shura's Sermon in Yama Palace. To improve his body skills, Sudong lacked a magic method for body skills. He dared not slack off. After the decisive battle between kings, Qi Jiuang, Liu Tong and other kings who worshipped under the 10 palaces Shura King must have worked hard to become stronger, and they all wanted to impact the Shura King level within 3 years. Without the training of Huan Quan Daofu, Qi Jiuang's swordsmanship attainments were so high. With the training of Daofu, his swordsmanship will be stronger. Sudong also felt pressure on Qi Jiuang. He also had many opportunities and countless trump cards against the sky, but in Huan Quan Road, his swordsmanship was crushed by Qi Jiuang, and he finally relied on the soul secret method to defeat him. Sudong's swordsmanship is improving. Qi Jiuang's swordsmanship is also improving, and the latter is also overcoming the shortcomings of the soul. To become a real strongman, you must be strong in all aspects. This is the goal that every king is pursuing. Indeed, Qi Jiuang rushed to the 15th crown king in a short time, and Han Feng even rushed to the 16th crown. They all proved their strength. Master, today is a day when King Shura of Yama Palace is preaching. Do you want to go and listen? A clear voice came from outside the sword tower. Preaching. Sudong's eyes lit up. He had become a disciple of King Shura of Yama Palace, and King Shura of Yama Palace had said that he would go to listen to his preaching. Go, of course. Sudong was dressed in a black robe. He left the East Peak and flew towards the Preaching Peak. Preaching Peak is at the North Peak of Buzhao Mountain, very close to the East Peak. Just a moment. Sudong followed the map information in the Taoist token and flew to a huge mountain. Preaching Peak is towering into the clouds, and there is a huge hall on the mountain. The hall is similar to the shape of a Taoist temple, and the entire hall is surrounded by stars, sacred trees, and strange clouds. The scenery is beautiful, and the Taoist connotation is long. There are Shura kings sitting cross-legged in the hall. Of course, there are more kings. Swordsmen. Today is the 21st. Lord Shura King of Yama Palace is giving a sermon. Swordsmen must come. Sudong flew into the palace and immediately attracted a lot of attention. Sylvan Knife Realm God, Lin Yu and other people who knew him all greeted him. Those who didn't know him also cast their eyes over. Let's meet this swordsman who is said to be the most talented among the 20 kings, who will be decided in this king's decisive battle. Swordsman. Even several Shura kings cast their eyes over. They were also geniuses who rose in the king's decisive battle, but their reputations were obviously not as loud as Sudong. In the past, Shura King of Yama Palace rarely accepted kings. I heard that this swordsman is very talented in swordsmanship. Shura King of Yama Palace is best at swordsmanship, so naturally he will be accepted under his command. Many people whispered and discussed. Sudang walked to the side of Silver Knife Realm God. Has he become a 10-crown king? The Silver Knife Realm God saw the mark on Sudang's forehead. I'm not saying anything bad about you. You're too slow. Look at Han Feng, who has become a 16-crown king. He's so arrogant. Sudang saw Han Feng standing out among the many kings. Han Feng was dressed in a green robe, with a smug smile on his face, and he didn't talk to anyone. Has he broken through to the God King? Sudang could easily sense the aura on Han Feng's body. Han Feng was the fastest among us to break through to the God King. He practiced the 6 paths divine art, which should be very suitable for him. In addition, I heard that he used the Book of Life and Death to make several deals, and got many treasures. His strength naturally improved by leaps and bounds. The Silver Knife Realm God would be lying if he said he didn't envy him. With the Book of Life and Death in hand, he is like a goose that lays golden eggs. If you randomly shorten or increase the lifespan of others, it will affect your own luck. The road to cultivation is long, and it's not worth it if your luck is ruined. Sudang shook his head. Luck is something that cannot be seen nor touched, but as he walked along, he felt that luck still had a great influence on him. Sudang. Linyu also took the initiative to talk to Sudang. You are here too? Sudang looked at this extraordinary king. As soon as he entered the Heavenly Palace, he was taken away by the Shura King of Changjiang Palace. The latter has been in a very high position since he was a child. Logically, he should have been accustomed to the feeling of being high and mighty, but his personality is extremely easygoing, which makes people feel friendly. The Shura King of Yama Palace is preaching. How can I not come? Linyu smiled. The Shura King of Changjiang Palace said that in terms of power and strength, he is not as good as the Shura King of Yama Palace. Sudang nodded slightly. The Shura King of Yama Palace is famous for his ability to kill, and his strength is tyrannical. After a while, Qi Jiuang, Liu Tong, Jiang Jiu, Beifan and many other kings came. Liu Tong. Sudang saw the one-armed man who walked straight in front of him. The latter still had the crazy aura similar to that of a beast, but Sudang, who had fought with him, knew that Liu Tong was only crazy on the outside, but he was meticulous inside, and should not be underestimated. A pair of eyes on Liu Tong's ugly face looked at Sudang's eyebrows. Just had a ranking battle? He and Sudang had fought. Others didn't know, but he knew how terrible Sudang's strength was. The King of 10,000 swordsmanship burst out, and he could definitely rush straight to the 17th crown to the 18th crown king. Don't worry. Sudang shook his head. Yeah, that's right. Liu Tong nodded slightly, and this look made the Silver Sword Realm God stare. In his past cognition, Liu Tong was synonymous with loneliness and madness. He was also seen to be more well behaved in the Heavenly Palace. I didn't expect that he could talk to Sudang like this. Sudang thought Liu Tong was a good person. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Qi Jiuang also took a look at the king's mark on Sudang's eyebrows and didn't say much. They all understood that it was important to rush to the Shura King within 3 years, and the current rank didn't mean anything. Sudang. Swordsman. Jiang Jiu and Beifan, who arrived later, greeted Sudang. Even the peerless goddess Yuling nodded and smiled at Sudang. Did you see that? Sudang seems to be very popular. I heard that he is very talented. His future prospects are limitless. Of course, many kings are willing to make friends with him. Many Shura kings who had just been promoted whispered. Socializing is also a manifestation of strength and potential. In addition, Sudang is calm and easygoing when he is not fighting, so naturally many people are willing to make friends with him. Of course, they are indeed optimistic about Sudang's potential. In the corner, Han Feng was wearing a green robe, with the 16 crown king mark on his forehead shining, looking coldly at Sudang who was being watched by everyone. Sudang is so arrogant. He thinks that he is better than me, because he is under the command of Shura King of Yama Palace? Better than me, but how come he is still a 10 crown king? Did he participate in a ranking battle, and was scared, and dare not participate, afraid of falling down? That would be embarrassing. What Han Feng couldn't stand the most was Sudan, because among the 20 kings in the Heavenly Palace who tested their talents, he performed the worst, while Sudan was recognized as the one with the best talent and appearance. So Han Feng was most jealous of Sudan, but he hadn't seen him since the gathering in the Heavenly Palace. Now that they met, he was a 16 crown king, while Sudan was only a 10 crown king, and the difference was obvious. Before entering the Yellow Springs Deo Palace, my talent was high enough. After entering the Deo Palace, I practiced the 6 Deo Divine Art. This Deo was tailor-made for me, and I easily broke through to become a Divine King. Sudan, there was no breakthrough. He now felt that he was superior to Sudan in every way, which was a slap in the face of the 10 Palace Ashura Kings. Han Feng smiled, and suddenly, his face became gentle. In the hall, the goddess of the clear sky, Jikera, flew in, and Han Feng immediately wanted to fly over to greet her. But Jikera didn't even look at him, and walked straight to Sudan's side, her pretty face shy and shy. She had never shown that expression or attitude to him. Han Feng's body suddenly became stiff. Killer. At this moment, his jealousy and competitive spirit were instantly suppressed to the extreme. At this time, all the kings and shuriks in the hall were silent, and their eyes looked up at the hall. On the starry sky-like dome above the hall, a figure quietly condensed into a cold man in black robe and black hair. His eyes were dark and deep, containing the sharpness and domineering majesty like a knife. The moment he appeared, the entire preaching peak seemed to be isolated in a cold world. In the eyes of all the kings and Shura kings, there was only this man. Greetings to Shura King of Yama Palace. Thanks to the boss Zioyo Langsu Shiangsha for the reward. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 459, The Child Cannot Be Taught. At this moment, no matter whether it was the Shura King or the king, everyone in the preaching peak bowed and said respectfully. The black-robed, black-haired, and extremely cold King Shura of Yama Hall nodded slightly and sat on the seat at the top of the hall. At this moment, he was the core of the entire world, and the great way of heaven and earth respected him. Sudan. The Shura King of Yama Hall looked at Sudan. You sit next to me. Sudan looked up. Many kings and even Shura kings looked at him with envy. Many of them did not worship under the command of the 10 Palace Ashura kings. A few were kings under the command of the 10 Palace Ashura, but their status was not as high as Sudan's. Because the Shura King of Yama Hall was not only extremely powerful, he also rarely accepted kings. He accepted Sudan as his king. He had only had this king for nearly 10 million years, so he naturally paid great attention to him, and devoted all his efforts to cultivating him. Of course, it was enviable. Thank you, King Shura. Sudan bowed respectfully, strode to the cushion next to the Shura King of Yama Hall, and sat cross-legged. The cold face of the Shura King of Yama Hall showed a trace of smile, and after nodding, he began to talk about the magic of Taoism. I'm good at swordsmanship. Today, I will teach you 3 swordsmanship. The first one is the swordsmanship created by the 5 Tigers Overlord King. As a Shura King who has reached the pinnacle in swordsmanship, the Shura King of Yama Hall preached with a high-level view and effortlessness. Even the Shura Kings who did not use swords in the hall listened carefully, because if you understand one method, you will understand 100 methods. Such Shura Kings' insights and magic are rare. In the past, the Shura King of Yama Hall preached about the origin of the way of death, but today he is directly explaining the swordsmanship. The Shura Kings who often came to listen were surprised. However, most of the kings who came for the first time listened carefully. Sudan was even more focused, and did not dare to miss anything. The only one in the hall who was not paying attention was Han Feng. Care actually fawned on Sudan, just because he is the king under the command of the Shura King of the Yama Palace. Care, you see, Sudan will only shine for a while. What's the point of being accepted by the Shura King of the Yama Palace? Won't he still be outshined by me? Besides, this is just the beginning. My strength will have a period of rapid improvement. My progress is destined to be more amazing. When I become the first king of the Deo Mansion, Master Wan will look at me differently. Sudan? What a shit. Han Feng only had Jikera in his eyes. He didn't pay any attention to the shuriken of the Yama Palace preaching. Jealousy completely overwhelmed his reason. What kind of existence is the shuriken of the Yama Palace? From the moment he appeared, he easily controlled this world. The expressions and demeanor of each of their kings and shurikens were under his control. Naturally, he easily found that Han Feng was just staring at the goddess of the clear sky Jikera and didn't pay attention to what he was saying. The shuriken of the Yama Palace glanced at Han Feng from the corner of his eye. This child is incorrigible. This Han Feng's character is indeed flawed. It is rare that he is still swayed by love after growing to this point. Su Dong sat next to the shuriken of Yama Palace, concentrating his attention. He was close to the water tower, and the shuriken of Yama Palace pointed to the front of the hall. A picture was reflected in the hall. It was just a picture, but the invisible power and pressure were radiating. It made many kings and shurikens in the hall feel suffocated. From this angle, Su Dong saw at a glance the figure of a strong man with long yellow hair and tiger-like patterns on his skin, reflected in the picture. Although it was just a picture, it made people feel the terrifying power contained in that figure. Su Dong had seen quite a few Holy Spirit Void Ancestors. Weak ones were like the sky-supporting Void Ancestor. Strong ones included the bull-headed shuriken, the Lord of the Mansion, and even the shurikens of the 10 Palaces. But they were not as terrifying as the tiger-striped strong man in the picture. Boom. The tiger-marked warrior swung his sword, and the entire scene was completely distorted. The long sword swung, like a golden tiger waving a powerful claw. Instantly, the sky and the earth were torn apart. What a terrible sword technique. Too terrible, too powerful. There was a sound of people sucking in their breath in the hall. Facing this sword, no one could remain calm. The wonderful technique of that sword had surpassed their imagination. Although they were only watching through the picture, the power and mystery contained in the sword technique were fully displayed, and they were all breathless. The pure sword intent and the sword technique momentum naturally emanated. It made everyone feel suffocated and looked up. This was a submission from the depths of the soul. 5 tiger killing sword. The voice of the shuriken of the Yama Hall and the hall came like a thunderous roar, resounding throughout the hall, echoing in everyone's ears. He began to explain and analyze the knife. The extremely terrifying knife in the picture began to replay slowly like a slow motion. The terrifying figures starting, swinging, and putting away the knife. The mystery of the way of death contained in the knife technique were fully explained one by one. His voice seemed to have a strange magic. Everyone who heard it was shocked and felt that they could fully understand it, but they were also extremely shocked and terrified. As the saying goes, ignorance is fearless. Without understanding, they think they are all kings, shurikens, and powerful people. But once they understand this level, they feel their insignificance. In front of a powerful person, like shuriken of Yama Palace, they are ants. Facing such a great existence, or thought or a look can kill them. Su Dong also felt that the knife technique contained great terror, but he was good at knife skills. After being explained by shuriken of Yama Palace, he immediately felt that he had gained more. Record. Su Dong operated his core data will consciousness and forcibly recorded this scene. Although the soul of the Divine Emperor Immortal Emperor level is already very powerful, it is easy to remember everything at a glance. But this knife technique is too terrifying, and it is impossible for people to remember it. Su Dong can only use the core data will consciousness space to forcefully record it, then watch it over and over again. This knife focuses on the word power. Su Dong's heart surged, and he vaguely glimpsed the essence. This book has been updated recently in #@. Update. The second style is a style that I created after reading the 10,000 Deo Sutra, named Yanluo Knife. Yanluo Hall Shuriken said. His voice sounded first, and the picture reflected in front of the hall turned. Boom. There was a roar in the picture. The picture was showing, but it seemed extremely difficult. It's so uncomfortable. My divine body is going to collapse. Everyone in the hall changed their faces, and they were in great pain. They quickly closed their eyes. Su Dong also felt pain. He immediately retracted all his perceptions into the will consciousness space, and tried to open his eyes, to look at the picture in front of him. A faint light flashed in the picture. Then, the picture disappeared. Everyone returned to normal, while Su Dong was completely shocked. That faint light. He was still immersed in the knife just now. Very good. Sudong's talent is indeed the best I have seen in thousands of years. The Shuriken of Yama Palace was very satisfied. Everyone else closed their eyes and could not watch the knife just now, but only Sudong caught it. The others looked at each other in bewilderment. Even Liu Tong, Qi Jiang, Jiang Jiu, Beifan, etc. all turned pale. I actually closed my eyes in fear. Liu Tong's teeth clenched on his ugly cheeks. The Yama sword of the Shuriken of Yama Palace is really well deserved. Qi Jiang felt how big the gap was between him and the others. There is no hope. Facing that knife, I have no hope of escaping. Beifan sighed again. The Shuriken of Yama Palace glanced down and waited for a moment. After everyone returned to normal, he did not explain his knife. Because no one except Sudong could see it clearly. I will now tell you about the last sword technique today, the 6th level of the Xian Wei Xian sword technique, the King of 10,000 Swords. Shuriken of Yama Palace said indifferently. Chapter 460, The Golden House in Books. Heavenly Sword Skill, King of 10,000 Swords? Sudong was startled, and then a look of joy appeared on his face. The other kings and Shurikens looked at each other in bewilderment. The Heavenly Sword Skill is known as the most terrifying sword skill in the void. It is widely spread, and many people have tried to practice it, although few have succeeded in practicing it. However, they have some understanding of it, and even many people have their own opinions on this sword skill. However, when Shuriken of Yama Palace, a great expert in swordsmanship, explains this sword skill, even if it is only one style, it still makes people curious. The swordsman must be practicing the Heavenly Sword skill, and he actually deliberately explains it. What a partiality. In the crowd, Jikeda did not feel envious at all, but felt happy instead. The higher Sudong's status, the happier she was. She looked like she was completely focused on Sudong. Han Feng's face became uglier. King of 10,000 Swords. Shuriken of Yama Palace spoke. He waved his hand. Wow. The scene in front of the hall changed again. This time it completely turned into a beautiful scene like a mountain stream. On the mountain, a thin and cold figure stood holding a knife. His face was handsome and indifferent. His eyes opened, and the grey of death was reflected in his pupils. The Shuriken of Yama Hall looked at this figure with respect. Everyone looked at this figure, and Sudong also looked at it. He was shocked when he saw the figure in the picture. Although there was a difference in momentum, breath, and temperament, but he could still recognize it at a glance. The Lord of Pan's Hang Mountain? He was secretly shocked. That's the Lord of Pan's Hang Mountain, it seems. What do you mean it seems? It's obviously, the King of 10,000 Swords was the title of the Lord of Pan's Hang Mountain when he was young. Back then, the Lord of Pan's Hang Mountain was the first king of the ages, Shuriken, the first sword king of the ages. The goddess Shuriken excitedly introduced. She was a diehard fan of the Lord of Pan's Hang Mountain. That's the Lord of Pan's Hang Mountain. Exclamations rose everywhere. Boom. The figure in the picture began to perform sword skills. Sudong quickly looked at it with full concentration. At a glance, he saw that the endless dark and thick black light covered the entire picture. The endless darkness all gathered on that figure. From a distance, it seemed that he could see thousands of sword lights and sword shadows floating in the picture. He could faintly see a huge sword light phantom appearing and flashing in it from time to time. He could even see a large number of sword lights with terrifying power shuttled around the edge of the huge phantom. Sword lights and sword shadows were closely connected to each other, just like a complex and precise machine, combining into a terrifying figure. That is the King of 10,000 Swords. Sudong stared at it with wide eyes. He could even feel the Dao flowing on the sword light and the mystery of the Dao of Death. Perfect, too perfect. He was very excited. Laymen watch the excitement, experts watch the doorway, and he watched the details. The subtleties show the extraordinary, and the extraordinary contains thunder. Sudong was amazed by it. This is the most perfect King of 10,000 Swords. Everyone in the hall looked up. Some of them were amazed, some looked puzzled, some were calm. In the picture, the figure did not perform much sword skills, but only condensed into the Dharma body of the King of 10,000 Swords. One could only see the sword light gathered on the Dharma body, the terrible power and mystery contained in the sword light. the king of 10,000 swords, although it is only the 6th level of the Xian Wei Xian sword skill, is praised as the most classic style of the entire sword skill, and it is also the most important style that can connect the 12 levels of Xian Wei Xian sword skill into a complete set of sword skills. The Shura King of the Yama Palace said with reverence, "The strength of the Xian Wei Xian sword skill lies in its power, and the most important 6th level has a great influence on the future sword skills. If you can master the complete 12 levels of Xian Wei Xian sword skill, your strength will be equal to mine, or even surpass me, and go one step further." Su Dong's eyes lit up. Others were shocked, some nodded, and some shook their heads. The fearsomeness and power of the heavenly swordsmanship are well known, but the difficulty of cultivation is even more famous. The 6th level is a threshold. The 7th level and onwards, it becomes increasingly difficult. How difficult it is to master this swordsmanship. The heavenly swordsmanship contains the complete mystery of the origin of the way of death. So if you want to achieve a certain level of attainment in this swordsmanship, you must master the origin of the way of death more thoroughly and clearly, said the Ashura King of the Yama Palace. What is the way of death? He began to explain the essence of the way of death, and now everyone began to listen carefully. Obviously, this kind of explanation is very rare, so everyone hurriedly listened carefully. Time passed. The 9-headed golden crows in the void of the mountain and sea realm all flew to the west of the sea. The sky gradually darkened. "Okay, today's sermon ends here," said the Ashura King of the Yama Palace. Everyone in the hall stood up. They saluted respectfully. "Thank you, Shura King, for teaching and answering my questions. Well, Su Dong, follow me." Shura King of Yama Palace nodded slightly, and then flicked his sleeves. Su Dong, who was sitting next to him, only had time to nod. Then he was enveloped by a golden light. Following Shura King of Yama Palace, he disappeared into the palace. This book has been updated recently on #@. Update. What a pampering. Lin Yu. Shura King of Changjiang Palace treats you like this. Many kings discussed. Ji Kenna blinked, feeling a little disappointed. She had thought that she had finally met Su Dong and would have a chance to get close to him later, but now he was taken away by Shura King of Yama Palace. Ji Kenna could only leave alone without interest. Han Feng followed him quietly. The golden light enveloped Su Dong, and he flew through the clouds and mist all the way to the heavenly palace on the top of Buzhao Mountain. He flew directly into a luxurious heavenly palace, and into the palace. Shura King of Yama Palace landed on a throne in the palace. Su Dong sat on a cushion in front. The Shura King of Yama Palace looked cold on the outside, but he was actually very easygoing on the inside. Su Dong could also feel that the Shura King of Yama Palace doted on him. "Have you participated in a ranking match?" The Shura King of Yama Palace smiled and said, "Yes, I participated in one this month." Su Dong nodded respectfully. "How did it feel?" "Very easy," Su Dong answered truthfully. "Haha, even if you haven't broken through to the God King, you are sure to reach the 18th crown, but it will be difficult to break through to the Shura King level. Are you sure to break through to the Shura King level within 3 years?" The Shura King of Yama Palace smiled. "Yes." Su Dong nodded without hesitation. "Well, that's good. Your swordsmanship is fine, and your spirit is also very strong. You have reached the level of a divine emperor. The flaw is your body skills and divine power. Divine power is easy to solve. Once you reach a certain level, you will naturally break through. The only shortcoming is your body skills." The Shura King of Yama Palace carefully instructed. "I suggest you go to the Sutra Kangfeng to have a look. The Sutra Kangfeng contains the manuals and notes of the predecessors and sages. They are all Taoist scriptures. Although there are no Taoist magic arts that can be directly practiced, many magic arts are evolved and understood from them. For example, my Yama sword was realized from a book of the 10,000 Dao Sutras. You should also go and have a look. Reading more books is always good for you." The ancients said that there is a golden house in the book. If you have something in your heart, you can usually get it in the book. "Yes." Su Dong nodded immediately. Sutra Kangfeng. Su Dong had heard of this place before, but he had not taken the time to see it. To enter the Sutra Kangfeng, you need to pay the yellow spring Dao fruit. In the eyes of the Shura King of Yama Palace, Su Dong has no shortage of yellow spring Dao fruit now. Su Dong is indeed not lacking. The reincarnation of Fenghai requires a lot of Huanquandeo fruits. Although I'm compact, I can still go to the Sutra Kangfeng. As long as he is strong enough, he can get a lot of Huanquandeo fruits through the ranking battle. The most important thing is strength. That night, after coming down from the heavenly palace, Sudong stepped on the moonlight and clouds and flew towards the Sutra Kangfeng. Chapter 461 The Legendary Sutra Hall. Sutra Kang Peak. Ever since Huanquandeo Fu conquered the entire mountain and sea world, it was established on Buzhao Mountain and has existed for a very long time. It stands in the most secluded corner among the many peaks of Buzhao Mountain. Sudong flew down from the sky and flew to the mountain road of Sutra Kang Peak. The mountain road was rugged and steep, and it was covered with terrible and strange formations. Sudong alone sensed hundreds of formations, and any formation activated could easily wipe him out. Strictly speaking, the mountain road is also considered a part of Sutra Kang Peak. At this moment, he is already on the peak. He cannot fly directly to the top of the peak. That is a taboo. According to the Shura King of Yama Palace, Sutra Kang Peak is considered a top-notch place in Buzhao Mountain. It is extremely valuable and exists in legends. Its status is even higher than that of Xiao Samsara Cave. Naturally, it must be protected more carefully. Sudong thought to himself. He walked step by step to the mountain road. The mountain road turned. Sudong looked to the side. On a huge rock nearby, a figure was sitting cross-legged. Dust and leaves fell on him and almost covered his body. He could only vaguely glimpse his appearance. Two pointed ears stood on his head, and his body was thin. Going up further, sometimes a figure would appear on both sides of the mountain road. Some were sitting cross-legged there in meditation, while others opened a cave to practice Taoist magic. In short, they were all powerful kings, Shura kings. Sudong walked along the mountain road. Several other figures gathered together, drinking tea and discussing Taoism in the pavilion beside the mountain road, and they all looked over. The Shura King mark on their foreheads ranged from 1 crown to 6 crowns. Another king. They all want to understand the Taoist magic from the ancient books of the sages in the Sutra Kangfeng. Haha, ridiculous. He will understand in a while. Those who come to the Sutra Kangfeng are all eager to understand the Taoist magic from the Taoist canon. What they understand by themselves is the most precious wealth. It is also the most suitable magic for him. Just like the Shura King of Yama Hall, he is also a Shura King. Why is he famous for killing? He is recognized as the strongest of the 10 palace Shura Kings. Even the Lord Kings such as Wang Zhenren dare not underestimate him. It is because the Shura King of Yama Hall realized the truth in the Sutra Kangfeng and realized the Yama knife from the 10,000 Dao Sutras. On the preaching peak, the Shura King of Yama Hall only let everyone watch the knife through the screen. Everyone couldn't open their eyes. It was too scary and terrible. But that was a model of success. In fact, how difficult is it to realize a set of magic techniques from the manual notes of the predecessors, and it must be shocking? The difficulty is no less than practicing the Shian Weishan knife to the 10th level. It pays great attention to talent and understanding, and it is extremely difficult, so the Shura Kings are talking about it. However, the Shura King of Yama Hall believes that Sudong can do it. He has made great achievements and great gains by taking this path, so he also wants Sudong to try it. Sudong did not look at the figures on both sides. Their discussions were isolated from the outside. It was strictly forbidden for the kings to fight and kill each other on Mount Buzhao. Once discovered, they would be suppressed for 10,000 years as punishment. If they did not change their ways, there would even be a powerful overlord king who would kill them. Therefore, even the most ferocious strong men would be restrained here. At most, they would just emit their own terrible aura. Some of them would directly occupy a large area like an overlord, and would not let others get close. They were very arrogant. Sudong walked through the entire mountain road, which was only about thousands of miles long. However, there were more than 10 powerful and terrible auras that completely enveloped the entire mountain road. Sudong walked through it with his powerful soul, so domineering, and there was also one who openly asked me to salute before letting me pass. A Shura King, how could he be so narrow-minded? Sudong shook his head. That Shura King had a snake body and a human face. His divine body was as huge as 1,000 meters. He was perched on the edge of a huge rock and entangled with a huge divine tree. It completely occupied the divine tree. He also domineeringly asked every king passing by the mountain road to salute him. There are many monsters in Huanquandaofu who have achieved success in cultivation, such as the bull-headed Shuriking and the snake-bodied Shuriking. Monsters are also one of the 6 paths of life, but most monsters are more ferocious and murderous than humans. Let Sudang salute. Sudang's sword technique of the King of 10,000 Swords burst out directly, and the dark sword light gathered into the body of 10,000 swords. A pair of sword wings behind him stretched in the air, emitting a mighty power. He strode through that mountain road. The King of 10,000 Swords, the snake-bodied Shuriking, immediately restrained his breath. There are many Evildoers on Buzhao Mountain. I heard that recently, a king with terrible sword skills and great achievements in the sword skills of the outer world appeared in the decisive battle of the kings of Buzhao Mountain. He was accepted by the Shuriking of the Yama Palace. This kind of king is an Evildoer. Don't provoke him. His status is much higher than mine. The snake-bodied Shuriking also worshipped under the command of the Shurikings of the 10 palaces. He knew which kings can be provoked and which kings cannot be provoked. Sudang is the one who cannot be provoked. The moonlight was pouring, and the clouds were shrouded. Sudang passed through the rugged mountain road and finally came to a majestic hall. This is the Sutra Hall. The Sutra Hall contains the manuals and notes of countless predecessors and sages, as well as Taoist scriptures. Many Taoist magics of Huanquandaofu were spread here. Even the Huanquan Divine Sutra that Sudang practiced, as well as another 6-way divine formula, all came from here. The Sutra Hall is the source of many Taoist magics of Huanquandaofu, and is extremely important. Well, this wine is good. A man wearing rags, and holding a wine gourd in his hand, with his hair all over his face, leaned against the gate of the Sutra Hall. He raised the wine gourd to his mouth, and a steady stream of fine wine flowed from the wine gourd into his mouth. This book has been updated recently in #@. Update. Sudang stepped forward. Meet the Lord King. Sudang bowed respectfully. He looked at the Sutra Hall in front of him. On the gate of the extremely ancient and majestic Sutra Hall, there was a plaque with the words Sangjing written on it. This palace has stood firm over the years and exists forever. Its status in Huanquandaofu is too high, so the one guarding here is also the top powerhouse of Huanquandaofu. A powerful Lord King. The Shuriking of Yamahal has to be respectful when he comes, let alone Sudang. But this Lord King is different from the Lord King of Panzhang Mountain and Master Wang. This Lord King is relatively unimpressive, just like an ordinary person. But no one dared to underestimate it. The figure with disheveled hair stopped drinking, lifted the hair in front of him, and glanced at Sudang. King, you came here too early. A little king who had reincarnated 9 times, and had the body of a peerless divine sword came here 2 days ago, but he didn't get anything. Peerless divine sword body? Qi Huayang has been here before. It seems that he didn't get anything. Sudang thought to himself, but took a step forward. He took out a storage bag. This is the first time that the 900 Huanquandao fruits have entered the Sutra repository. Please let me enter the Sutra repository to see it. You are so persistent. You don't listen to advice. Take out your Dao Mansion token. The figure shook his head, and his disheveled hair fluttered in the wind, spilling a lot of the wine stuck on it. Sudang quickly took out the Dao Mansion token, and handed it over. Are you Sudang? After taking the token, the figure seemed a little surprised, and lifted his hair again, to look at Sudang. Yes. Sudang replied. So you are the little fellow that Brother Zhao values. It is said that you have an absurd talent. Well, maybe you can make it. Go in. For Brother Zhao's sake, I will allow you to stay in the Sutra library for half a month for the first time. The figure waved his hand, and the ancient door of the hall opened. Remember, the king can only read the books on the first floor. Don't even think about going to the second floor. A drunken admonition sounded in Sudang's ears. Sudang's body seemed to be pushed by a gentle breeze, and he was easily pushed into the Sutra library. Chapter 462. Hundreds of people read hundreds of books. Sudang was a little surprised. The Brother Zhao mentioned by the guarding Lord King should be the Lord King of Panzhang Mountain. Wang Zhenren also called him that in the Heavenly Palace. It was the first time he knew that the Lord King of Panzhang Mountain was optimistic about him. It stands to reason that, if you pay 900 Huanquindeo fruits for your first visit to the Sutra repository, you can stay here for half a month. This Lord King gave me an extra half a month, just for the Lord King of Panzhang Mountain's sake. Sudan felt that the Lord King of Panzhang Mountain had a high status and a wide network of contacts. Secondly, he felt that he had picked up a bargain for nothing. I don't know whether the Lord King of Panzhang Mountain is optimistic about me or not, but this bargain is not bad. This little guy put aside his innate secrets. I can only vaguely sense that he has a great opportunity. The Lord King who sent Sudan inhaled a wine gourd, parted his scattered hair, revealing a pair of extremely bright golden eyes. In terms of Taoist magic, killing and attacking, I can't compare with Brother Zhao, Master Wang, when it comes to appraising treasures and spying on the destiny and secrets of heaven. 10 Brother Zhao can't compare with me. He easily found that Sudan had great opportunities and great luck. As long as nothing goes wrong in the middle, his future will definitely be limitless. He doesn't like to practice. He is not good at attacking, but he can grow up to be a dominant king. His strength should not be underestimated. He relies on a pair of eyes and a body of luck. Since he met Sudan, he naturally made a good relationship with him. However, no matter how high his luck is, Sudan, a little king, is still just a little guy in his eyes. Brother Zhao and Master Wang both say that you are talented. I want to see if you can break the record and dig out another magic. The Sutra Hall contains scriptures and treasures. If you want these treasures to appear, you need to rely on your own talents to dig and discover them. In fact, it is not necessarily that you have a high talent to dig out new Taoist magic. In the long history, it is said that a particularly dull king once unearthed a terrible magic in the Sutra Hall. That magic was so powerful that it was listed as the top level by Huanquindeo Fu, and it was even higher than the Yama sword created by the Shura King in the Yama Hall. The reading of a talented person and the reading of a dull person. Both of them gain something from reading books, but the depth, level and angle of reading are different. Maybe the dull person gains more from reading books. After all, there are hundreds of people reading hundreds of books. The sloppy Lord King outside continued to drink, but he paid attention to Sudan in the hall. The Sutra Hall is divided into 6 floors. Each floor has thousands of books, and each book not only records text, but some even have sound and images. After all, the kings generally have a high level of soul. If it is an ordinary book, I'm afraid that they can read thousands of books in 1 second, and read them carefully. The first floor, the king can enter. The second to 4th floors, the Shura King can enter. The 5th and 6th floors can only be entered by the Lord King. Sudan entered the 1st floor, and rows of bookshelves were arranged in front of him. Sudan's mind moved, and many books flew over automatically. One by one, they were unfolded in front of him. Most of these books had no names. They were all some casual images, some were just a few words, and some were pictures. There were also complete records, all kinds of things. Chasing immortals. Sudan glanced at the records. Records in an ordinary small world. That world strictly divided immortals and mortals. Immortals ruled the world. Immortals lived in the sky, and mortals lived on the ground. Children born by immortals cannot marry mortals, but coincidentally, a fairy actually drifted to the mortal world, and married a mortal man, and gave birth to a child. In the end, the immortal punished and killed the mortal. He took the fairy away. What's interesting is, the child born by the two embarked on the path of cultivation by chance, rising all the way, in order to avenge his father and find his mother. He finally kicked over the rule of the immortals, and trampled on the strongest immortal at that time. Dantian Sutra. Sudan vaguely glimpsed the scriptures that the child practiced. And Dantian Sutra is just an ordinary Taoist hard sutra. It can be used to practice Qi and understand the Tao. In the story, there are countless scriptures like this. On the 1st floor of the Sutra Hall, there are countless manual notes, stories and miscellaneous talks. Some are like a person's life. No matter how powerful Sudan's soul is, he can't see the end from the beginning. The best sword in the world, Gian, is the best in the world when he comes out of the mountain, but he sinks for a woman and is betrayed by relatives and friends. Sudan looked at it and was immersed in it. His swordsmanship. Sudan found that Gian, a character in the book, had returned to his original simplicity. After experiencing the vicissitudes of life, he integrated many experiences and insights into his swordsmanship. In the end, he was truly invincible in the world. His heart, will, strength, and achievements were all invincible, and he performed the magnificence of his life to the extreme. No one could hurt him, and nothing could affect him. What was even more precious was that in the darkest time of his life, there was a woman who illuminated his life, and there were friends who never left him. This was the most precious wealth in his life. The best in the world was just his most insignificant achievement. The sword of life and death. Su Dong spied on the swordsmanship that Gui Yun practiced. The swordsmanship was so perfect that one sword could peek into life and death. Life is one world, and death is another world. When a sword is out, life and death are not important. It is more like making a choice to open up two world roads. If this Gui Yun had not died and became a king of the Dao mansion, his swordsmanship talent would be far superior to mine. Su Dong felt ashamed of himself. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. I don't know which predecessor recorded this Gui Yun's life. I don't know if it helped him go higher and further in the end. This Su Dong is just average in intelligence, and his level of understanding is just the most superficial level. After a month, I'm afraid that he won't gain much. The wine-gourd Lord King who was watching Su Dong outside the hall shook his head slightly, with a hint of disappointment. He thought that Su Dong was extraordinary, and could find a new way to reach the extraordinary. Now it seems, he is just an ordinary genius who follows the crowd. Just like that little guy with the innate peerless sword, his talent is certainly enough, but unfortunately, he lacks some depth. The Lord King thought, but shook his head again after a while. The golden eyes blinked lightly. I'm reading a book. Maybe the people in the book are also looking at me? I look down on Su Dong now, and I think I have a high vision. This is even more of miasma. I haven't finished reading the books on the 6th floor of the Sutra Hall, and I have only created a wine god method that can be said to be unprecedented and on par with that Master Wang. What is there to be proud of? Let him be. I'm tired of reading too much. He felt that his vision might not be enough. Maybe it was enough. In short, Su Dong's performance at the moment was just average. There is nothing to look forward to. He immediately withdrew all his thoughts and continued to drink. Only by drinking can he feel the true meaning of life, eternal life, and only with wine can he feel happy. No, after reading the book once, I can only see the most superficial layer, and I can't see the essence contained in it. Moreover, the first time, I only thought about seeking knowledge. I didn't think about seeking meaning. Su Dong suddenly shook his head. I have to read a book no less than 10 times. Forget about the books I don't like, just find the ones I like. The more I read, the more I like it, and naturally I will understand more. But 1 month is definitely not enough. The Dao mansion stipulates, the king can only enter the Sutra Hall once a year, half a month each time, and pay 900 Huang Dao fruits. In the future, in the same time, the Dao fruits paid are twice the first time. The more they go on, the more they increase. This is also the reason why more kings on the mountain road are there to think and understand. Of course, this is a restriction on the king, and the restriction on the Shura king is much looser. After all, the growth of the king's strength is the most important thing. It is not good to be too persistent in reading the Dao canon. Put it on Su Dong. Tao fruit is a small matter, the key is time, and it takes eternal time and space. Su Dong said secretly. I have been reading the comments, but I have never responded. Today, Dantian wrote what I wanted to say in this chapter, which is also a response to all the comments in the comments area. Chapter 463, Spring and Autumn, Vincian, Records. If you read a book once, you can only get the most superficial meaning. If you want to understand it thoroughly, you have to read it dozens of times. However, many of the books in the Sutra library are about life, pictures, and images, and there are very few words. Even Su Dong, who is at the level of the Divine Emperor, needs a long time to read. My Tuosh clone is in the Sutra library. My soul enters the eternal time and space, and slows down 10 times to repeat, and read the essence of it. Su Dong made a decision. Immediately, his soul entered the eternal time and space, and the flow of time slowed down 10 times. Carefully study each book. The materials of the books are extraordinary, but the content is mediocre. Maybe they were lost outside, and the people who picked them up didn't know that they were books that drifted out from the Sutra Peak of Busao Mountain in Huangquandaofu. This is not a secret book that records supernatural powers and Taoism. It is just a notebook. But they are all rare Taoist scriptures. Their preciousness cannot be studied in depth, because experience has proved that you can dig out extraordinary methods from them, and they have been studied for years. It can be regarded as the source of the magic of Taoism, and is far more precious than the Zia Samsara cave that records the 3000 magics. No matter how good the magic of others is, it is still fizz after all. The magic of Taoism created by one's own understanding and experience is the best. Sudong secretly said, this statement applies to every level. For example, the divine light of the innate secret world of the 5-colored stone clone. Even if it has the power of the origin, the Tush clone can only exert part of its power, because it is not the most suitable for oneself. The same reason. No matter how strong the secret method created by others is, it will not perfectly fit oneself. Since the Shura King of the Yama Palace asked him to come to the Sutra Hall to dig for the Taoist scriptures, it means that he believes that he has this ability. Who is the Shura King of the Yama Palace? He is a successful example of great harvest in the Sutra Hall. The Shura King of the Yama Palace can have great harvests. Why can't he? So even if it costs some money, Sudong will try to prove himself. He can also realize the magic of Taoism in the Taoist scriptures. The king of Shura in Yama Palace said that there is a golden house in the book. As long as I have a desire in my heart, I can get it in the book. Sudong remembered his original intention. This sentence seems to be an explanation, but at this moment, it seems more like a guide. Reading books is not blindly reading, but to pursue and desire. The books on the first floor of the Tibetan Sutra Peak are classified into categories, and I don't know how many years of predecessors and sages have been left behind. There are too many books. Sudong spent 3 days in the outside world and 30 days in the eternal time and space to roughly browse through them. After browsing through them once, Sudong selected 16,000 books from them. These are all books that he had read once and felt touched. Either the writing is very good, or he agrees with the insights in the notebook. Anyway, he will read them again. The second time was much faster than the first time. It took a day in the outside world and read them again. After reading them again, many books were boring. So I stopped reading. But some of them were particularly surprising at the beginning, and the insights that made me astonished. But after reading many other books, I felt biased and not too comprehensive. Some people disliked and disagreed with some things at first. After reading more books and looking at them from a different perspective, they found some truth in them. In this way, Sudong was immersed in the pursuit of books and didn't even notice the passage of time. It's been 15 days. Sudong is really patient. The sloppy golden-eyed overlord king was drinking. There was a young man waiting outside the Sutra library. The young man stood respectfully aside, not daring to urge or disturb him. Only one person can enter the Sutra library hall at a time, and others can only wait in line. Generally, they are the first to enter. Like the powerful Shura King and Overlord King, they can directly borrow the books they want to read. I have been here for 13 days, but the people inside still have half a month. Isn't it only half a month for the first time to enter the Sutra library hall? This young man had two horns on his head and a handsome and gentle face. He was Lin Yu from the Great Light God Kilin clan. He didn't know that the extra half month for Sudong was given by the golden-eyed Overlord King. For the latter, it was a casual gift. But for Sudong, it was of great significance. 15 days have passed, and Sudong has only read 3 books now. One is the Spring and Autumn Classic written by an unknown person. One is the Universal Book, and the other is the Notebook. The Notebook is a pure notebook. It records a very ordinary story. The story of a strong man who grew from a weak mortal to a top strong man. The top strong here, of course, only refers to the strong man in that small world. Monsters are everywhere in the world, and the country established by the human race is constantly attacked by monsters. The lives of ordinary people are very difficult. Among them, a young man named Han Ki, who was born very ordinary, but worked very hard, and aspired to become a strong man, since he was a child. This is a very old story, but Sudan read it with passion, over and over again. He was tired of reading the spring and autumn classic and the universal book, so he read this notebook of Hanki. He admired Hanki very much. He often remained absolutely calm in difficult situations, always had an upward enterprising spirit, kept moving forward, and kept pursuing. It seemed that no difficulties could defeat him. His mind was extremely firm, from weak to strong, always extremely firm. This is a natural strong man, because he has the strong faith. There are countless people who want to be strong in the world, but some people will stop, waver, and be frightened by difficulties in the process of pursuit. They will be dazzled by the prosperity in front of them. But the real strong people have firm faith, and will keep pursuing. Never stop. They are eager to fight, eager for a more wonderful life, and yearn for a higher and broader world. They are not afraid of responsibility. They can look directly at the blood and death, and are ready to die at any time. In a story, Sudan initially cared about the mystery and ups and downs of the story, what kind of encounters he had, what kind of experience he had. But in the end, he was really shocked and infected, and what supported him to read it over and over again was the faith and will expressed in the story. Sudan read carefully, be firm, strong, and never stop. Sudan would sometimes be excited. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. From Hanki, he thought of himself. Perhaps every strong man's struggle history has the same motivation. He also rose from obscurity. Perhaps his experience was more mysterious and dreamlike, but he was also more determined. In the world of the Jin Dynasty, when he was weak, he could not even guarantee his life safety. Since then, he has been pursuing strength and becoming stronger. He went further and further on the road of the strong. His strength level became higher and higher, and his will became more and more determined. He wanted to become stronger, and finally transcend the 6 reincarnations, and become a holy spirit, to live forever in this world. In the Yellow Spring Road, he was the strongest, and in the King's Battle, he had the highest talent. He has been working hard and pursuing, although he has never told anyone, never shouted loudly, but he knows it in his heart. If you want to do it, you must be the strongest. I'm the strongest. Sutra Hall, the 29th day. Eternal Time and Space Soul read the Spring and Autumn Classics 36,000 times. The Universal Book 101,900 times, and the records 90 times. He read Hanki's records the least, which he liked the most. Every time he read the Spring and Autumn Classics, he read the Universal Book, only when he was tired. This is the best time, and reading it continuously has no effect at all. Spring and Autumn. A moment is spring and autumn, a year is spring and autumn, and eternity is also spring and autumn. Sudan's soul left the eternal time and space, and slowed down 10 times. He was in the Sutra Hall for the 30th day, and he read the Spring and Autumn Sutra for the last time. The words recorded in the Spring and Autumn Sutra were very sloppy and casual, similar to cursive writing, but they had their own unruly, proud, and soaring spirit. He flipped through it carefully, and felt that these words contained mysteries that could go hand in hand with the way of life and death. There is a feeling of time. Sudan could catch a little feeling, but this feeling was still elusive, and could not be controlled at all. The last sentence is long-winded. I hope that every reader who reads my novels can feel refreshed, and more motivated to move forward when reading the novels I wrote, when they are tired and exhausted in the pursuit of life. That is my greatest satisfaction. Danke will also work hard to write better plots. Come on. PS. In the last month of 2019, I hope everyone will have everything they wish for at the end of the year, and have a lot of harvest. In addition, the second update will always be late, but it will never be absent. Chapter 464, The Miraculous Technique That Shocked the World. The Spring and Autumn Annals records the perception and understanding of the Spring and Autumn Annals by a senior sage. It can be called a scripture. It is enough to show how great the senior sage is. A little insight into the Spring and Autumn Annals can become a scripture. Sudan watched carefully. All the books in the Sutra library are made of paper made of a kind of sacred tree material. The paper has the strange veins of the sacred tree itself. The veins contain the essence of Taoism, and it will not decay or break even after billions of years. Sudong slowly flipped through the spring and autumn annals in his hand. This was his 36,071st time to flip through this book, and it was also the last time. So he read it very slowly. Reading slowly, it was as if time was passing slowly. But just as time will never stop, as time passes, he will eventually turn to the last page. Thinking back to when I was young, I asked for 3 things from heaven: love, power, and happiness. Later, I realized that love brings happiness, power brings happiness, and the third thing was asked for in vain. What I should have wanted most is spring and autumn. If I were given another chance, I would have a spring and an autumn. I want endless spring and endless autumn. Oh, hate, hate, hate. These are the words on the last page of the Spring and Autumn Classic, and the handwriting is the most sloppy, almost to the point of being unrecognizable. If Sudong's spirit was not strong enough to understand the meaning, he would not have been able to read it through. These few words were left by the predecessors who recorded this Spring and Autumn Classic. When I was young, I asked for 3 things from heaven. Sudong felt a little shocked. The things described in this paragraph did not match what he knew. There are basic rules of heaven to maintain the operation of heaven and earth. But that is just a basic order, and it does not give or take anything. But this person asked for it directly from the sky, and his tone seemed very domineering, as if it should be so. But there were only 3 chances, and it cannot be changed. He asked for power, true love, and joy. Later he regretted it, and he wanted endless spring and autumn. In the end, he must be unhappy, because he is about to die. The true love and power he asked for are gone, and joy is naturally gone. Sudong thought, this is a possibility. However, after reading for such a long time, Sudong also guessed that this senior sage could ask for things from the sky. If it is true, then his background is probably extremely terrible. He wants true love, power, and joy. He doesn't want immortality. It is possible that he himself is the eternal existence of the Holy Spirit Zuzu, but he asked for true love and power. It should be that the person who gave him true love and power is gone. So he is also not happy, and the endless spring and autumn he wants is for this person. The Holy Spirit Zuzu is eternal, but he cannot give eternity to others. How powerful the Book of Life and Death is, it can only prolong life a little, but cannot achieve eternal immortality. True love is hard to come by, and it is also what many gods and immortals pursue. It can make people feel full of endless power, and make people extremely happy. So, God should have only given him one person, someone who made him love deeply, and loved him deeply, but did not give that person endless life. Of course, this is all Sudong's guess. Turning over the last page, and closing the Spring and Autumn Classic, Sudong was silent for a long time. Spring and autumn. He remembered his heart. Spring and autumn is time. Time is irreversible, rushing forward. No one can stop it. If time can be condensed into a magical skill, then if I want to leave, no one will be able to stop me. If I want to chase, no one can avoid me. What he pursued was the magical skill of the speed of the body movement, and any magical skill was based on a concept. In terms of speed, the popular ones are wind, lightning, thunder, etc. And time can also be linked to speed. The passage of time cannot be chased. This second can never catch up with the next second. But such a magic has never been heard of in the void. At least Sudong has never heard of it. If I create a magic spell based on time, it will definitely be comparable to the many speed magic spells in the void, and my speed will be unparalleled. The powerful force of time is close to fantasy, but it is theoretically feasible. Once successful, it will be extremely amazing and shocking. Sudong closed the Spring and Autumn Classic. Then he turned to the last page. He silently looked at the last paragraph of words. It seemed that he wanted to imprint those lines of words into his mind. Slowly, in Sudong's eyes, the paragraph of words seemed to disappear, leaving only 3 words. Hate, hate, hate. These are the 3 words that burst out in a concentrated manner. These are the 3 words that concentrate the will and thoughts the most. Sudong's expression was extremely solemn. He could feel that the feeling of time he captured was contained in these 3 words, but he still didn't grasp the key. It's still a little bit. Snap. He closed the Spring and Autumn Classic for the last time. Sudong released his divine power this time. Without hesitation, He put the book back to its original position on the bookshelf, just like a drop of water falling back into the ocean. The Spring and Autumn classic was buried in the sea of books again, waiting for the later generations to read it again. Then, Sudong opened the Universal Book. The Universal Book was the one he had read the most times among the 3 books, because it was the only one with pictures among the 3 books. Because it was a picture, Sudong looked at it directly, and it was likely that he would read a page hundreds of times, so the number of times was the most. Turning to the first page of the Universal Book, the picture showed a goddess wearing a phoenix crown and a bridal robe. Her eyebrows and eyes were picturesque, and her pretty face was full of spring love. The big red veil was slowly covering her eyebrows and eyes. On the second page, a young man stood in front of the city with a knife. Behind him, the city was trembling with mortals and ruins and wars everywhere. In front of him were tens of thousands of demons and monsters staring at him, as if they would drown him in the next moment. The young man drew his knife. The knife light was like blood. This book was recently updated on #@. Update. Page 3. Page after page, like a play, the most moving and shocking scenes are presented. When Sudong read it for the first time, he looked at the content, but later he looked at the details. He studied the goddess's eyebrows and phoenix crown. He explored the knife in the young man's hand and the flying blood, and so on. The Book of All Things, which encompasses everything, is only a corner of everything. Everything belongs to space. That gaze. Sudong suddenly flipped through the Book of All Things and turned to the first page. The goddess's eyebrows and eyes seemed to penetrate the pages of the book and penetrate space. On the second page, the young man's gaze also seemed to penetrate space. On the third page, everything was in chaos. Space means are nothing. Void gods can all have certain space means, but there are very few who use space means in their magic. It is even rarer to use it to the speed of body movements, and to be able to penetrate the flying body movements in the pages of space, but there are indeed some. The Silver Knife Realm god uses space to make his body movements extremely strange. Time. Space. The last 3 words hate in the Spring and Autumn classic flashed through Sudong's mind. Hanki's always high-spirited fighting spirit, and will flashed through his mind. In the end, it shocked every page of his Universal Book. After tens of thousands of times of pursuit and excavation, a little light finally flashed in his mind at this moment. Will. It's will. Sudong's eyes burst into light. It was a strong will that contained time and space. Will governs everything. That little bit of time in the Spring and Autumn classic is speed. The Universal Book and space can evolve into body skills. Will is the overall command and integration of everything. Sudong was completely immersed in his own gains at this moment. He had a complete conception and the little bit of Taoist scriptures he had excavated. This was the seed and root of a Taoist magic. The combination of the 3 allowed Sudong to vaguely glimpse that he was about to create a body skill that combined time and everything. It will surely shock the ancient and the modern. Chapter 465. Magical techniques exchanged at magical techniques peak. That's it, with one's own will as the core. Sudong based on the idea, the more he dug and sorted out, the more feasible it felt. In his mind, he simulated various body movements, all of which contained the mystery of space. The streams of light flickered, seemingly slow, but there was a ray of time power contained in them, so fast that you couldn't catch up or avoid it. Being able to sense the treasures and mysteries in the Taoist canon is a hurdle. Being able to turn these treasures into Taoist magic still requires verification and coordination step by step. It's like writing a propositional article. The core idea is grasped, but the arrangement of the article, the quality of the writing, and whether the sentences composed of each word are smooth. This is destined to be extremely difficult. Sudong is still a blank sheet of paper, waiting for him to splash ink and write. As for what the final work will be like, no one can guess. When Sudong sat cross-legged in the Sutra Hall, completely immersed in his many ideas, the golden-eyed overlord king outside the hall narrowed his eyes slightly. In the last few days, I have read these 3 books. The Spring and Autumn classic has an extraordinary origin, and the Book of All Things has a big secret and an ordinary record. Regardless of whether it can be done or not, Sudong has some understanding. At the beginning, King Shura of Yama Palace also read the Book of All Things and became crazy, and he really realized the Yama sword technique. There are many kings who come to the Sutra Hall to study and excavate the Taoist canon, but there are still few who can gain something from it. For example, King Shura of Yama Palace, who can create the Yama sword technique, can even be written into the history of Huangquandaofu. Just because of a Yama sword, King Shura of Yama Palace is praised as a top knife genius that is rare in tens of millions of years. In Huangquandaofu, his talent is second only to the Lord King of Pan's Hang Mountain. It is difficult to excavate the Taoist canon, but there are also patterns to be found. Many people get inspiration from a book or a sutra and gain a little inspiration. When there is no inspiration, it is like a blind man touching an elephant. But when there is inspiration, it is an explosion. But without exception, the achievements of practicing the Taoist magic that one has realized are destined to be extremely high. The more powerful it is, the more outrageous it will be, because it suits oneself best. But when the Shura King of Yama Palace created the Yama knife, he was also the Shura King. Sudang is still a king, and the accumulation of a king is still small, so it is difficult. The golden-eyed dominant king shook his head. He waved his hand immediately. The time is up. Come out. The door of the ancient Sutra Hall opened, and the voice floated directly into Sudang's mind. It made him suddenly break away from his conception, and his eyes were still shining. Enough. Without hesitation, Sudang stood up, put the universal book and Hanki's notes on the bookshelf with a smile on his face, and then walked out of the hall. Sudang, the young man Lin Yu, who had been waiting outside the hall for a long time, saw the figure coming out, and was slightly surprised. Lin Yu, you are also here, to dig the Taoist scriptures? Sudang did not smile even a little, and was obviously in a very good mood. He also saluted the sloppy dominant king next to him with gratitude, but the latter was so focused on drinking that he didn't even look at him. Well, the Shura King of Changjiang Palace came to give some advice. Although our great light god Kilin bloodline is high, we are not so good at creating Taoist magic. I'm here to try my luck, Lin Yu said with a smile. 100 kinds of people read 100 kinds of books. Who knows, there may be great gains. Sudang, you look like you have gained something. Some insights. Sudang nodded slightly. Lin Yu's eyes lit up immediately. Yes, you are the most talented among the 20 of us. It is normal to gain something. Let me tell you something. Just 3 days ago, Jiang Jiu's strength exploded, and he broke through the ranking battle and directly reached the 18th crown of the king. Beifan, Liu Tong and Qi Jiuyang also broke through the 18th crown. Du Gusheng, Han Feng and I broke through the 17th crown. The worst Cheyenne Vueling also broke through the 16th crown. You understand what I mean? Lin Yu smiled, and after speaking, he reached out and patted Sudang on the shoulder. He gave Sudang an encouraging look. After bowing to the Guardian Overlord King again, he walked towards the Sutra Hall. Sudang couldn't help but shake his head. Among the kings who won the Mountain and Sea Seal, my rank is the lowest now. You know, Sudang is known as the one with the highest talent and the greatest potential among the 20 kings. He was accepted by the Shura King of the Yama Palace, but now he is still hovering at the 10 crown king. The Shura King of the Yama Palace did not urge him, because he knew Sudang's strength. Sudang was not in a hurry, but it was inevitable that the outside world would talk about it. Wait a little longer, wait until I create a body movement secret method, and then I will have a good fight in the ranking battle. Sudang's mind was focused on creating a body movement magic at this moment. If he didn't make up for his own shortcomings, he would be at most an 18 crown king. But if he made up for it, that would be a leap over the dragon gate and a step further. Sudang went down the Sutra Repository Peak, and did not return to his cave, but flew towards the Magic Art Peak. The Magic Art Peak gathered many magic arts of the Huangquandao Mansion, and it was also a first-class treasure land. It was a place for disciples of the Dao Mansion to exchange for Taoist magic arts. I don't have enough accumulation. The only skill I have in terms of body movement is the void escape. To create a body movement skill, I need to accumulate and learn from it. Sudang knew his shortcomings. His only advantage was that he had the eternal space-time, a weapon that compressed time, which allowed him to improve his accumulation in a very short time. In the Myoshu Peak, there were special clergymen. Most of them were divine emperors, not kings. They bowed to Sudang when they saw him. The Sudong entered a palace in the Myoshu Peak. The palace was very large. Above was a starry sky. There were stars floating in the starry sky. Each star was a kind of magic skill. There were so many that it was impossible to count them. Sudong glanced and saw millions of magic skills. Where is the body movement skill? Sudong asked the clergyman. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. This starry sky. The clergyman pointed to a corner of the starry sky. Sudong's soul and thoughts drifted over. Magical arts are special skills that can be performed, and body magic arts are a large category among them. Sudong found many touching ones after a soul scan. To exchange these magic arts, the number of Huanquindeo fruits required for the introductory outline is not much, but it is not a small amount. I will learn from the accumulation and exchange the introductory outline. It is impossible to exchange all the magic arts of Taoism at once. First, the value is too high. Second, it is not allowed to practice for a period of time and then find that it is not suitable for oneself. Isn't that a waste? So they are exchanged separately. It is divided into the introductory outline, 2 volumes, upper and lower. There are 3 volumes in total. Sudong searched carefully. Soon, he found a magic art outside the starry sky area of body magic arts. The magic art showed a golden light ball, which contained a jade ring with some exquisite small characters engraved on it. The fourfold body of the moon. A body magic art created by Ashura king of the 10 palaces in history. It costs 700 Huanquindeo fruits. To exchange the introductory outline, Sudong felt it was a bit expensive, but he still exchanged it. He took off the jade ring and looked for it again. The Fishan Sutra, the introductory outline requires 1300 Huanquindeo fruits. The 7 stars stepping heavenly step, the introductory outline requires 3000 Huanquindeo fruits. Sudong was secretly surprised. This is the most expensive thing he has bought so far. But because it contains power, in addition to body skills, it also contains the power of footwork. So it is extremely valuable. Then look for it again. In the end, Sudong took the outlines of the 5 magic arts of the moon grabbing fourfold body, Fishan Sutra, 7 stars stepping heavenly step, 1 line of sky, and Fishan Dundi, which cost a total of 16,000 Huanquindeo fruits and left. This is just the outline. It's still cheap. For example, the first volume of the Fishan Dundi magic art requires 110,000 Huanquindeo fruits. Not many kings can afford it. Master. The goddess Mingjing looked at Sudong who had returned. He had not returned for a month. Although this time was just a blink of an eye for them, the goddess still prepared fine wine and delicacies for Sudong. After eating and drinking, Sudong directly studied many body skills. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 466, The Ultimate Body Movement Technique. Sudong sat cross-legged in his palace. 7-star stepping heavenly step. Sudong studied this body movement skill carefully. In the core data will space, he also tried to simulate and practice it. 7-star stepping heavenly step is divided into 7 levels. If you learn the first level, it is probably the body movement level of the 17 Crown King. The second level is the 18 Crown King. The third and fourth levels are the 19 Crown King. The 5th to 7th levels are mastered by the Anti-Heaven King, but most of them are mastered by the Shura King. If Sudong wants to practice, he will spend time and energy. Within a year, he should be able to practice to the 4th level, but the limit of the King level is at the 4th level. Most of the 19 Crown Kings. 7-star stepping heavenly step. The most important thing is the word step. 1 step down, suppress a void. Sudong studied it carefully. Directly enter the eternal time and space. Time passes, and the eternal time and space slows down tenfold. Nearly 100 days have passed, and 10 days have passed in the outside world. Sudong completely mastered the outline of the 7-star stepping heavenly step, and tried to integrate his understanding of time and space from the spring and autumn classics and the book of all things. It took 300 days. 1 month in the outside world. After changing the 7-star stepping heavenly step into a mess, he finally integrated his own perception, but the level of the magic is not as good as the pure 7-star stepping heavenly step. Sudong then studied the magic of flying into the sky and escaping into the earth. The magic of flying into the sky and escaping into the earth is at a higher level, and the introductory outline is very exquisite. Sudong spent half a month in the outside world just to study and practice it, and he made some progress. Then he integrated his own perception. It took a full 40 days in the outside world, in the heavenly palace on the top of Buzzhao Mountain, in a magnificent palace. Where is Sudong? Is he still practicing in seclusion? The Azure King of Yama Palace sat on the throne above. Below was the respectful goddess Mingjing. He had not made it through the rankings in the past 2 months. Yes, the master has been practicing in seclusion since he came back. Goddess Mingjing nodded in response. After a month at the Sutra Kang Peak, after going down the mountain, he went directly to the Magical Techniques Peak and exchanged 5 magical techniques for the body movement and returned to the mountain. Did he have some insights that he wanted to accumulate and learn from? But even if he has a high aptitude and talent, it is not this way. The Azure King of the Yama Palace felt that he had made a mistake in guiding Sudong. He should not have let Sudong go directly to the Sutra Kang Peak. He should have accumulated and polished first. In the past 2 months, Sudong has not made it through the rankings. Master Wang has asked me if there is any problem with Sudong's practice. Forget it, since you are in seclusion, then concentrate on practicing and the ranking battle. What is important is the result in 3 years. The process in between is not important. The Azure King of the Yama Palace waved his hand to let the goddess Mingjing leave. Remember, notify me as soon as Sudong comes out of seclusion. He did not forget to remind him. He really cared about Sudong, the only king under his command. King Shura of Yama Palace also wondered if Sudong had made great achievements on the Sutra Tibetan Peak and could really comprehend some extraordinary Taoist magic, but he felt that the possibility was extremely low. It was too difficult to create a Taoist magic. He only hoped that Sudong could be inspired. Step by step, from inspiration to a flash of inspiration, he could eventually create a truly extraordinary magic. Another month later, Sudong finally got started with the Yixenshin body movement magic and began to combine the comprehension of the spring and autumn classics and the book of all things. After integrating the 7-star stepping heavenly step and the flying heaven and earth with his own will. Wow. As if he could feel the passage of time, Sudong practiced the body movement magic over and over again in the eternal time and space. All kinds of ideas in his mind, all kinds of essences and dregs in the practice process. Finally, many perceptions were melted. Finally, another month passed in the outside world. Sudong's magic was transformed again. There are changes. In the eternal time and space, Sudong sat cross-legged. Recalling the magic skills he had mastered so far, he deeply felt that his current magic skills were no lower than any of the 5 magic skills. In the past, he had pieced together and merged them, and his fusion was not as good as others' original body movement magic skills, but now he has really reached that level, and can be on the stage, which means he is making progress. Progress is a good thing. Continue. Sudong studied the Feishan Sutra again. The magic skills after fusion are improving, proving that the direct direction is right. Although it is only a small achievement at present, it is enough to make Sudong excited. He was extremely excited. If he continues like this, he will eventually create his own body movement magic skills. After another month, he entered the Feishan Sutra and tried to merge it into his own body movement magic skills. But this time, in Sudong's excited expectation, it took a month and a half, and the level of the magic skills after fusion not only did not improve, but regressed. This was like a basin of cold water poured on Sudong's head in an instant. No, it's not like that. He began to overturn everything, reintegrate, and re-understand. At this time, 6 months had passed. The swordsman is still in seclusion, not even seeing me. The Silver Sword Realm God visited again, but was stopped outside the Sword Tower by the goddess Mingjing. The Silver Sword Realm God could only turn around and leave. In the past 6 months, the mark on his forehead has become the 15 Crown King. Many kings have greatly improved their ranks, such as Liu Tong, Beifan, Qi Jiuang, Du Gusheng, Lin Yu, etc., who have all been ranked as 18 Crown Kings and are striving for 19 Crown Kings. Han Feng was unlucky. After reaching the 18 crown rank, he not only did not improve, but was challenged and lost a crown. Became 17 crowns. After that, there were always wins and losses in the ranking battles, and he has been hovering at 17 crowns. Now many Shurikings, Kings, and even Master Wang are paying attention to Beifan and Qi Jiuang, and are about to forget Sudang. The Silver Sword Realm God came to see him several times, and he was in seclusion. Did the swordsman have another breakthrough in his swordsmanship? Is he preparing to break through the 7th level? The Silver Sword Realm God guessed. This book has been updated recently in @ Update. Sudang, who has the highest talent and strength, has been silent and in seclusion. In addition to him, many people are also paying attention. Sudang, his swordsmanship is already extremely terrifying, but he is in seclusion now. Qi Jiuang felt the pressure. Invisible pressure is the biggest pressure. If Sudang had made it to the 18th crown of the king, he would not feel anything, but he chose to go into seclusion at this time. Is there a big gain? He has seen Sudang's talent since the Yellow Spring Road. What kind of improvement can make the former stay in seclusion for so long? Wait, Sudang will be a surprise once he comes out of seclusion. I want to rush to the 19th crown. Qi Jiuang also improved himself crazily 19th crown. It is a hurdle. 9 battles and 9 wins will make you the Shuriking. Beifan, Jiang Jiu, Liu Tong, Du Gusheng are all fighting, and even the goddess Yuling is practicing wholeheartedly. My current opponent is Beifan, Qi Jiuang, Du Gusheng, then Sudang. Should not be a concern. Han Feng and GK are together, extremely confident. I had already reached the 18th crown, but I was unlucky enough to meet the Burning King who was ranked in the top 50 of the ladder list, and I lost a crown. People at this level are all top-notch experts, and it is too difficult to increase 1 crown. He just felt that it was normal for him to lose to the Burning King. GK smiled and nodded. Han Feng had been getting close to her recently, and she was happy about it, but she was still more concerned about Sudang. What is Sudang waiting for? It's been almost a year, and he's still a 10 crown king. Even if he is low-key, he is too low-key. This is not the Sudang in her mind. It was the 28th day of the 12th lunar month again, and a year had passed. In the eternal time and space, this is the last step. It is also the step with the highest achievement. If you succeed, you will be promoted infinitely. Sudang performed the magic of body movement in the eternal time and space. This was his last practice, and it was also the time for him to put into practice the many insights he had gained in the past year. Swish, swish, swish. Black and white lines appeared in the eternal space and time. The black and white lines shuttled, twisted, and entangled in the space and time. Sudang's body shuttled and transformed in the black and white lines. The time of the eternal space and time was slowing down, but the figure in the black and white lines seemed to transcend time, going upstream from the tenfold deceleration, as if everything was in slow motion, and appeared at super high speed. Time. Space. This is my body movement magic. Sudang's eyes lit up. He was experiencing the feeling of flying at super high speed, dodging and moving. He was fast, and everything was slow. Chapter 467 High Speed Impact Ranked Battle. This is pure speed and body movement. Sudang is completely immersed in this high speed movement. He dodges and moves in space, and feels the strange feeling of moving forward in time. This is a body movement magic he pursues. Success. This is my body movement magic. Sudang's eyes lit up. He took will consciousness as the center, time, and space as the foundation, and extracted the 5 body movement magics he needed. Like the 7-star stepping sky step, it contains a certain power. Sudang directly gave up the part of its power, and selected the essence of pure body movement to smelt. The other 4 are all pure pursuit of speed and flexibility. Finally, this magic was obtained. Of course, this magic is just an introduction, a beginning. Regardless of the level, because it was created by himself, it is the most suitable for himself. Because of the fit, it can naturally perform at a super high level. Now, try to test my body movement in Iron Man Lane. Sudong is looking forward to it at this moment. With my current physical skills, I should be able to easily withstand the siege in Iron Man Alley. Every profession has its own specialty. If you have strong physical skills, you will not be afraid of siege. As long as you are not imprisoned or controlled, it is the world of physical skills masters. And Iron Man Alley, which requires the power of the top Divine Emperor close to the level of Holy Spirit Void Ancestor to pass, is a perfect place to hone your physical skills. I will hone my skills in Iron Man Alley first, and then go to the ranking. One ranking battle after another can also help hone my physical skills. Sudong smiled. He has not participated in the ranking battle for a year. The Shura King of Yama Palace has set a prize. If you become the Shura King within 3 years, you will be rewarded with 200,000 Huanquandeo fruits. It is said to be 3 years, but many kings are fighting for it. The sooner you become the Shura King, the better. The king's battle can only show that they were strong when they entered the Dao mansion, and the first one to reach the Shura King can better show their potential and talent. So, it is said to be 3 years. Sudong estimated that at most 2 years, Qi Jiang, Liu Tong, Jiang Jiu, Beifan and the like can become Shura Kings. If he wants to surpass them, he must become Shura King 2 years ago. There is pressure, but more motivation. Go for it. He studied the art of body movement for a year to make up for his shortcomings in order to surpass himself in the ranking battle. He has been preparing for a long time and can't wait. Iron Man Lane. This is the final verification and polishing. Very easy. The Iron Man who was so scary in my eyes in the past turned out to be so clumsy. In the Iron Man Lane, one by one, the Iron Man B pupa with extremely powerful power rushed over. Sudong's body directly turned into 2 rays of light, one black and one white. The light shuttled through the Iron Man Lane, and those Iron Men couldn't touch a corner of his clothes. It's great. Iron Man Lane. Normally only those who are close to the top power of the Divine Emperor and the Holy Spirit can pass through, but the Iron Men in the Iron Man Lane can't touch him at all. This is a horror of the body movement magic. Sudong, who constantly dodges and moves in the attacks of many Iron Men in Iron Man Lane, is more and more thorough and proficient in the perception and use of his own body movement magic. This is a body movement magic he created. When using it, all kinds of inspiration flash, like a wild imagination, but it is this wild imagination that has a more terrible effect in the battle. It's done. Sudong opened his eyes. He flipped his hand and took out the Dao Mansion talisman. The divine power urged the talisman to directly form a space vortex, and the divine power of the space vortex twisted and rotated, wrapping Sudong in it and teleporting him directly to the space channel of Huanquan Road. King's Ladder ranking. HMM. Beifan, ranked 81st on the King's Ladder, 19 Crown King, record, 3 wins in 3 battles. Sudong saw the familiar name on the King's Ladder at a glance, and his face was slightly surprised. The mysterious and talented young man emerged in his mind. When the 10 Azura Kings in the Heavenly Palace gave the decree, it was Beifan who first realized the Dao of the God King level. Although he relied on a page of Buddhist scriptures and core data will consciousness to finally beat him, and was recognized as the most talented, Beifan should not be underestimated. At the beginning, Beifan was the most mysterious, and now his strength is far ahead of many kings. In the king's decisive battle, many kings have never fought each other. It is naturally difficult to tell who is better, but in the ranking battle, the strength is immediately clear. The 19 Crown King is a hurdle. This hurdle has blocked too many kings. Once this hurdle is passed, it means that the strength is enough to surpass most of the God Emperors in the void. The status of the 1 Crown Azura King in the Dao Palace is much higher than that of the king. This is a symbol of strength. And reaching the level of the 5 Crown Shura King, that is the level of a normal Holy Spirit Void Ancestor, and one can establish a sect in the void, and become a giant. Going up, those who exceed the 10 Crown Shura King are super holy spirits, like the Lord of the Palace, the 14 Crown Shura King. They are themselves the Holy Spirit Void Ancestors, and their strength is extremely terrifying. The bull-headed Shura King and the 12 Crown Shura King are equally powerful, and even under the command of the 10 Palaces Shura King, they are of extremely high status. When it comes to the 19 Crown Shura King, the 10 Palaces Shura Kings are all 19 Crown Shura Kings, the backbone of the Huanquan Daofu, and even the Lord King pays great attention to them. In some aspects, they are already very close to the Lord King and can suppress an era of the void. Buzzhow Mountain. West Peak. Haha, I finally won another game. I was lucky this time and didn't run into those monsters. I'm also an 18 crown king. Hurry up and tell Kira. In the simple cave, Han Feng was dressed in green, his face full of joy. He was holding the Day of Order talisman to send a message. In the past 2 months, I have participated in no less than 50 ranking battles, almost 2 every day. He was completely crazy, and he didn't practice to seek breakthroughs, but fought in ranking battles every day. He paid too much attention to the ranking level, and forgot that his own strength was the foundation. The ranking level was just a benchmark to measure the strength. Of the 9 kings who won the Mountain and Sea Seal, Beifan was a 19 crown king, Liu Tong, Qi Jiang, Jiang Jiu, Du Gusheng, and Lin Yu were all 18 crown kings, and the goddess Yuling became 16 crowns. Han Feng was of course anxious. This book was recently updated in #at. Update. I must not be caught up by Yuling. As everyone knows, the goddess Yuling won a Mountain and Sea Seal with the help of Lin Yu, and her strength was just average, but now she is about to catch up with him, so Han Feng has been desperately participating in the ranking battles these days. Finally, today he became an 18 crown king. Feeling the 18 crown king mark on his forehead, Han Feng was extremely happy. Yuling is still a king with 16 crowns. It's very difficult to upgrade from 16 crowns to 17 crowns. I paused for nearly half a year. Yuling is probably even slower. Let's check what rank Sudang is. The kings can check the rank information of each king Shura king in the Daofu through the Daofu order, just like personal information. Sudang. King of 11 crowns? Han Feng grinned. Haha, it's not easy. He has been promoted to 1 crown. This Sudang is not bad. He has been promoted 1 crown a year. It's really fast. Master, Sudang's king rank has changed. In the cave of Qijihuang Pavilion on the eastern peak of Buzzhow Mountain, a divine emperor girl said respectfully. The same scene happened in the residences of Liu Tong, Jiang Jiu, Beifan and others. Too many people are paying attention to Sudang. Is the ranking battle finally started? The Silver Knife Realm god immediately discovered that the rank of Sudang and the Daofu order had changed. King of 12 crowns. No, 13 crowns. It's promoted so fast. Kira had cut off the communication with Han Feng long ago. She was thinking about Sudang. Silence for a year. Sudang, who was recognized as the most talented among the 20 people, is finally going to explode? What? The rank has reached 15 crowns? It's only been a while. In just a moment, a rapidly rising king attracted the attention of countless kings and Shura kings in the Dao mansion. Those who rush to rank up at such a high speed are all ruthless people. Thanks to Dark Knight Rainflower for the reward. Chapter 468, Crazy Rush to the Top. HMM. In the Heavenly Palace on the top of Mount Buzzhow, King Shura of Yamahal was practicing swordsmanship, and suddenly a look of surprise appeared on his face. Has the ranking started? 16 crowns? In less than half an hour, from 10 crowns to 16 crowns, it was like a high-speed rocket, and it was easily reached. 17 crowns. With Sudang's strength, it is normal to reach 17 crowns. HMM. 18 crowns. King Shura of Yamahal's eyes lit up. 18 crowns. This is a small breakthrough. Based on his understanding of Sudang's strength, it is about this level. Reaching 18 crowns is enough, at least it proves his strength. But it only took a moment. King Sudang, the rank is raised to 19 crowns. In the Daofu order, Sudang's rank was raised by another crown. King Shura of Yamahal finally showed a look of surprise on his face. 19 crowns? He actually reached the 19 crown king? Even if he is the king of 10,000 swords, it should be around 18 crowns. Is it so easy to reach 19 crowns? Ranked battles, low ranks are easy, and higher ranks are more difficult. The kings he met became more and more terrifying, but Sudang almost did not stop from the 18th crown to the 19th crown. It seems that there is no difficulty among the 20 kings in this king's decisive battle. Besides Beifan, this is the second king to reach the 19th crown. Do you want to charge again? The king of Shura and the Yama Palace, sent a message to Sudong, but there was no response at all. Sudong naturally did not dare to ignore his message. There was only one possibility, that is, the ranking battle was still going on. Shocked, many kings in the Dao mansion entered the Huanquan Road passage of the ranking battle to watch the new names appearing on the king's ladder. Ranked 97th, King Sudong, 19 Crown King, 2 wins in 2 battles. Ladder list. It's about combat power. Being on the list proves that Sudong's combat power is extremely high. 2 wins in 2 games. So fast. Just now he was the 10 Crown King. Now he has rushed to the ladder list. Damn, he has surpassed me. I have been practicing in Buzha Mountain for 12 years, and I have been stuck at the 19 crown level. I was surpassed by a little guy. At this time, the name Sudong spread again among the Daofu kings and Shura kings. It was said that the king recognized as the most talented in the Heavenly Palace, the Shura king of the Yama Palace, was recruited by him. All kinds of things were mentioned. No. Hanfeng, who also arrived at the Yellow Spring Road passage, went crazy. He stared at the ladder list in front of him and looked at a name on it. Ranked 67th, the 19 Crown King Sudong, 4 wins in 4 games. Blow. A bolt from the blue. The ranking was like a sharp blade, easily tearing apart the last layer of window paper that Hanfeng had used to cover his arrogance. In the Heavenly Palace, 20 kings tested him, and he performed the worst. He was unwilling to accept, and unwilling to give in. He vowed to use his strength and talent to slap the faces of the 10 Shura kings. So he tried his best to improve his rank from the beginning, and he reached the 16th crown in the first 2 months. But it took a year for him to reach the 18th crown with great difficulty. He still relied on a certain amount of luck. His rank seemed high, but in fact, he was behind every king who won the Mountain and Sea Seal. Even the goddess Yuling had made greater progress than him. She was far behind him at first, but now she was catching up with him. Only Sudong. He always thought that Sudong was not as good as him, but now, Hanfeng realized the gap. At that time, the inner king of the Heavenly Palace and the Shura king of the 10 palaces were not wrong about him. Sudong was indeed the most talented, and he was still the loser. He lost. He lost miserably. His competitive spirit was too strong and blinded himself. The most important thing was that he had broken through to the God King, and Sudong was still at the level of the Realm God, but his strength was so much higher than his. The gap was too big, and he could no longer surpass him. No way. He has surpassed Beifan. He has surpassed me. King Beifan sighed. I know he has a high talent and will never remain silent, but I didn't expect that he would surpass me so easily. But I haven't participated in the ranking battle for 20 days. I have a breakthrough in the secret method. Let's try it today. He was anxious. He could become the king of the Dao mansion and stand out in the king's decisive battle. Who would want to be inferior to others? Go ahead. Liu Tong entered the Yellow Spring Road and started to rush into the ranking battle. 19 crowns. Qi Jiuyang also started the ranking battle. Sudong. This Sudong is my best Taoist partner. Compared with Sudong, Hanfeng is a waste. Jikena smiled. She laughed happily in the cave, as if Sudong's winning streak in the ranking battles was her own winning streak. This Sudong is a newly promoted king. Is he so strong? Sniper him. I have won 5 games in 19 crowns, and if I win him, it will be 6 wins. I don't believe that he is so strong as a newly promoted king. Many kings who were stuck in the 19th crown were anxious. They all started the ranking battle, hoping to match Sudong to snipe him. The battle passage of Huanquan Road. 5 wins in 5 battles. Well, it's a bit difficult. If it weren't for my amazing body movement skills, I would have almost fallen into the trap of that king. Sudong was dressed in a black robe, standing in the passage, looking at the current ranking. He was already ranked 42nd. Come again. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. I haven't entered the ranking battle for a year. If I want to enter today, I have to enter it to my limit. Start matching opponents. 19 Crown King rank. Matching opponents is a bit time consuming, but there are obviously many 19 Crown Kings who come to rank today. In less than a moment. Wow. Sudong's figure appeared in the Huanquan Road arena. Golden waves were rolling and floating. The vast aura penetrated the entire world. Whoosh. A cold man with black clothes, black squares and black eyes, who was also dressed in black, landed on the other side of the arena. He took a close look at Sudang opposite him. "Are you Sudang?" The stern man's eyes were dark and cold. His coldness penetrated into his bones, and his voice was like a cold wind. "Who are you?" A long sword appeared in Sudang's hand, and dark sword lights began to wrap around his body. The sword light was deep and sharp, emitting a sword aura that soared into the sky. There were dark blade wings stretched behind him, which could easily tear the space apart. "The realm god. The king of 10,000 swords. It must be you. Very good. Remember, you lost to Li Tingfeng." The cold king looked at Sudang, and a long sword appeared in his hands, and the sword light was wrapped with golden light. The breath of the god king level emanated. At this level, most of them are at the god king level. Sudang also thought to himself, only a small number of them deliberately suppressed their skills to hone their Taoist magic. He didn't suppress it, but the blood shackles of the 5-colored stone clone had not been broken through, so he naturally couldn't break through. But his soul reached the level of the God Emperor and the realm was also improved, and only the divine power was affected. The difference is not big. Boom. 2 golden lights instantly penetrated the space, and 2 golden dragons could be seen floating on the ring. They rushed towards Sudang with the power of thunder. Thunder twin dragon swords. As soon as he came up, the cold young man used his killing move. "No matter how powerful you are, the king of 10,000 swords, I'm not afraid, because I will not give you a chance to use your sword." He is good at fast swords, and his sword skills are extremely fast, and the enemy often has no time to react. But this time is different. King of 10,000 swords. The black light on Sudang's body suddenly shone, and the blade wings behind him fully stretched out. Boom. Sudang directly turned into a black and white light, and the black and white light flashed. Die. A dark sword light wrapped in a violent power that could easily create the world instantly cut through the divine body of King Li Tingfeng. Just a little bit. Li Tingfeng widened his eyes. He felt that his sword light was just a little bit short. Even if he was given another second, he could stab Sudang, but in that second, it seemed that the difference was not distance, but time. Sudang's sword arrived. It was almost as fast as his body movement, and the more terrifying sword power defeated him in an instant. At this moment, the ranking of the king's ladder was updated again. Ranked 29th, the 19th Crown King Sudang, 6 wins in 6 games. Chapter 469, Confrontation with the King of the Ranking. Next, Sudang then started the next ranking match. This time the match was faster. In the blink of an eye, he was teleported to the Huangquan Road Arena. Swish. A tall and burly king wearing ordinary armor landed directly on the other side of the arena. The king had a long sword on his back. The long sword was wide and thick, wrapped in a hazy green light. He was the same height as Sudang, but extremely strong, as if he was growing horizontally. The whole person exuded a violent aura like a volcanic eruption. He looked at Sudang like a beast looking at its prey. 19th on the ladder list, Zhao Langxing, the big man king, took the initiative to report his name. Sudang couldn't help but smile. When he was in the low rank, he would kill anyone he met. At most he would roar. Now that he was in the higher rank, he had more appearances, and he reported his name before the fight started. He didn't know that his crazy rise in the ranking match had already attracted the attention of the kings, and they wanted to snipe him. Whoever could interrupt Sudang's winning streak would surely become famous. People live for fame and fortune. These kings are the same. They all want to defeat Sudang. Ranked 24th Sudang. Sudang smiled. He also took the initiative to give his name to show politeness. Very good. The sturdy king looked directly at Sudang, his voice excited and excited. Sudang, let me see whether your king of 10,000 swords is better or my Xianji tyrant sword is stronger. Haha. Come on. Sudang laughed, and dark sword lights began to wrap around his body, and a pair of dark sword wings suddenly appeared behind him. The Dharma body of the king of 10,000 swords emerged, and the dark and deep power fluctuations spread out. The king of 10,000 swords is the 6th level of the Xianweishan swordsmanship, which is praised by the Shura king of the Yama Palace as the most classic sword, and has a great reputation. Once used, it gives people a sense of oppression, which is momentum. King of 10,000 swords? The sturdy king snorted coldly. With a bang, he pulled out the huge sword behind him. With a swing of the sword, he turned into a peerless overlord, swinging the sword and slashing at him. Ninth style of overlord sword. His eyes were domineering and sharp. With a low shout, the broadsword held tightly in his hands was like a battle axe that created the world. It contained the profound power of the Way of Death, which could split mountains and rocks. He chopped down fiercely on Sudong's head. Boom. A pair of blade wings passed directly. The violent power collided, and the whole arena shook. The sturdy king only saw a flash of black and white light in front of him. This speed? He was shocked. For a king like him who practiced pure heavy swords, the most fearful thing was to encounter fast speed. Boom. The sturdy king was directly blown away by the sword light. He held the broadsword in his hands with both hands. The whole body was trembling with the power of the sword light. Then he landed heavily on the edge of the arena, looking at Sudong with horror in his eyes. It is said that the sword technique of Xian Weishan is powerful, but the speed of the body movement is a weakness. How can your body movement be so fast? He instantly realized the problem. The powerful sword technique of the King of 10,000 Swords is expected, but Sudong's body movement is so fast, which is not in line with common sense. Haha, think about this question slowly. Sudong laughed, and the King of 10,000 Swords flashed, and several sword lights flashed and rushed over at the same time. I will fight you. The sturdy king went crazy. The whole body of the god burst into a golden light, and the golden light soared into the sky. Behind it instantly appeared a huge mountain phantom, and the mountain phantom was covered with secret patterns. There was also a terrifying beast shadow lurking in it. The most terrifying thing was that under the pressure of the mountain phantom, the entire arena subsided by several meters. A golden light burst out, and the sturdy king used his best skills to chop at Sudong. But the black and white light flashed again. Wow. The sword light from the King of 10,000 Swords only drew a series of strange and mysterious phantoms on the ring, similar to being frozen in time. It instantly passed through the divine body of the sturdy king, and in an instant the entire mountain phantom collapsed and dissipated. The sturdy king's owl Angsing widened his eyes in astonishment. I'm wrong. Sudong, what you are best at is not swordsmanship, but body skills. He roared, his voice resounding throughout the ring, and then his divine body shattered and dissipated. It's not that I'm good at something, it's that your shortcomings are too obvious. You can still hold on to the 19th place. It's all supported by your divine power and swordsmanship. Sudong shook his head. The power of Zhao Langsing's swordsmanship is not inferior to that of the King of 10,000 Swords. He has long reached the threshold of the Shura King, but his body skills are too poor. The shortcomings are too obvious. If you meet someone with the same poor body skills, you can still compare. If you meet someone with body skills that completely surpass him, you will be completely abused. From the beginning to the end, the power of his swordsmanship could not even touch the corner of Sudong's clothes. What's the use of his powerful swordsmanship? Swish. Sudong's figure also disappeared in an instant and reappeared in the Yellow Spring Road. Looking at the ranking of the ladder. Ranked 18th, Sudong, the 19th Crown King, won 7 battles and 7 wins. Continue. Sudong looked at the ladder in front of him, and his eyes looked at the 18 names above him one by one. His eyes were full of fighting spirit. The top 10 in the battle power ladder are all monsters, and there are 8 who have won 9 battles and 9 wins. In the historical record, it has rushed to this position more than once. Sudong thought to himself, why didn't he rush up? Because it was the final battle for the king, to advance to the Shura King. The opponent he faced must be the Shura King. Even if it was a Shura King with a crown, his strength was not comparable to that of the king. Fight with the Shura King? Sudong felt full of fighting spirit. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Heavenly Palace, Yama Palace, Shura King Palace. Good job. Being able to rank in the top 20 of the ladder list fully proves Sudong's talent and potential. Haha, well done. The Shura King of Yama Palace smiled. The Shura King of Zuanlun Palace is still proud. Beifan has reached the 19th crown of the king. What's that? Breaking into the top 20 is strength. He was extremely happy, and at the same time, he guessed in his heart that Sudong could achieve such a record. There must be some extraordinary breakthrough. Either sword skills, or some special magic. Since coming down from the Tibetan Sutra peak, I went to the magical art peak. Sudang has been in seclusion. Could it be that he really has a great harvest? The eyes of the Shura King of Yama Palace lit up. If he really created some extraordinary magic and Taoist methods, he could present them to the Dao mansion. Not only could he get a lot of Huangquan Dao fruit rewards, but he would even be qualified to be recorded in the history of the Dao mansion. It is of great significance. Let's see how many places Sudang can reach. He was looking forward to it, always paying attention to Sudang's ranking in the Dao mansion order. Lost. 19 Crown King, ranked 82nd. I lost. I actually met Aang Luo, Dongfeng, in Beifan's cave. He sighed. Sudang's sudden rise stimulated him, and he also entered the ranking battle ranking, and won a game. In the second game, he met Aang Luo, this terrible king who once dominated the list. Aang Luo. That was the monster who failed to challenge Shura King, and claimed to be invincible among the kings. He was completely defeated. The same scene happened to Liu Tong. Qi Jiuang. Du Gusheng's mansion. 19 Crown King, ranked 96. Liu Tong was unwilling, but he knew that this was his limit. Qi Jiuang's face was ugly. I actually lost to a sword fairy, ranked 66th. So far, Qi Jiuang is the one who has rushed the highest except Sudang. Although the others have rushed into the list, they are all at the bottom of the list. But Qi Jiuang was a surprise. He rushed to 66th. And lost to a fairy king who used a sword. Jiang Jiu, Du Gusheng, Lin Yu and others all rushed to rank and failed, waiting in the Huangquan Road passage, looking at the king's ladder ranking. Reached the top 10. Sudang reached the top 10. So scary? I'm going to fight those perverts who dominate the list. Each king saw the name that seemed particularly eye-catching on the king's ladder ranking that was refreshed in real time. Ranked 9th, 19th crowned King Sudang, 8 wins in 8 games. Chapter 470, the 9th ranked Storm. Ranked 9th. GK felt that her breath was suffocated. Compared with Sudang, the so-called Zhang Zifeng, Han Feng and the like were not even worthy of carrying Sudang's shoes. At the same time, she was also worried. Enter the top 10. 8 battles and 8 wins, and then qualify. That means fighting against those monsters who dominate the list. Dominating the list refers to those terrible kings who have been stuck in the king rank for a long time, almost have the combat power of Shura King, but just can't get up. Even if they lose the promotion battle, they will quickly return to the top 10 of the ladder list. So they are called the kings who dominate the list. The top 9 are all powerful people who dominate the list. They ranked and matched against the 9 Crown King. They did not advance. To become Shura King, they must match with Shura King in the promotion game. If they lose, they will lose the crown. Start the journey of 9 battles and 9 wins again. Naturally, there will be fewer people who come to match. This Sudang is really popular. He actually rushed to the top 10 in one go. He is now ranking again. Because it is 8 wins in 8 games, the first choice of opponent is the first 8. If the first 8 do not respond, then the newly promoted king who has won 8 wins in 8 games must be matched with him. The kings were talking about it. Today is the 15th day of the month. On the preaching peak, the Shura King of Bianji Hall is preaching. But the kings below, and even many Shura Kings are paying attention to the king ladder list. Even he has divided a wisp of his mind to pay attention to the changes in the ladder list. The Shura King of Yanluo Hall is really lucky. He accepted such a king. But I heard that the Lord King of Panshang Mountain has said hello. No wonder the Lord King of Panshang Mountain is optimistic about him. It is indeed extraordinary. The Shura King of Bianji Hall is dressed in a white robe, with 2 small mustaches on his face. He has an easygoing temperament, and is the most gentle one among the 10 Shura Kings. But this does not mean that his strength is weak. The 10 Shura Kings are all extraordinary. The Lord of Panshang Mountain is a top-notch strongman and a great existence in the void of the mountain and sea realm. With one sentence, he can easily turn the world upside down in an era of the void. Such an existence is optimistic, which is enough to prove Sudang's potential. Who dares to rank now? I don't know. It's okay if he wins, but if he loses, he will be stepped on by Sudang. This Sudang is too aggressive. If I win him, his reputation will definitely rise. I want to snipe Sudan, but unfortunately, I'm the Shuriken. Everyone is looking forward to the discussion. Lose, 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 must lose. Don't win again. Han Feng's voice trembled. He was in the Yellow Springs passage, looking at the king's ladder in front of him. The name on the list, the ranking, suppressed him so much that he couldn't even raise his head. He once vowed to slap Master Wang and the Shuriken of the 10 palaces in the face with his strength. Prove that their vision is wrong. But now, his oath did not come true. Instead, the facts proved that Master Wang and the others were right. In the Heavenly Palace test, Sudan had the highest talent. Now, in the same amount of time, he has shown the greatest improvement and the strongest strength. Not only Sudan, Liu Tong, Qi Jiang, Beifan, Jiang Jiu, Du Gusheng and Lin Yu just rushed to the 19th crown. Even the goddess Yuling. They rushed to the 18th crown. Stimulated, everyone is rushing. And Han Feng just participated in a ranking battle. He lost another one, and became the 17th crown king, even behind the goddess Yuling. So far, it has been thoroughly proved that Master Wang and his vision were unique at the time, and he was indeed the worst one. His talent foundation may not be weak, but his mentality is destined to make him unable to stand on the stage. He didn't think about it. Master Wang, the Shuriken of the 10 palaces, and even the Lord King of Pan's Hang Mountain, who could become great masters in the Dao Mansion, all came step by step from weak to strong, and over the long years, he has seen countless genius kings. How could he easily misjudge someone? But he thought it was against him. He didn't slap anyone in the face. It was just that reality slapped him in the face. It destroyed the last bit of pride that he had been holding tightly in his heart. Now, he just hoped that Sudan would fall at that last step. That was enough. They all worshipped under the command of the 10 palaces Shurikens. They were instructed by the 10 palaces Shurikens. What about me? I only worshipped under the command of an ordinary Shuriken. Han Feng shook his head, aggrieved. The Shuriken he worshipped was actually not ordinary, and his strength was at the level of a lord of the mansion, but his inner pride blinded his eyes. The Shuriken would naturally not teach and instruct him with a flattering face. In the Dao Mansion, why is it said that the king worships under the name of the Shuriken? It should be said that he is under the command. Because in Huangquan Dao Mansion and ordinary sects, the Shuriken and the king are the strong and the weak. In the organizational structure of the Dao Mansion, the Shuriken is the boss and the king is a subordinate. The boss is eager to get a strong helper and a powerful subordinate, so he will train and teach, but it is not the kind of master and apprentice who wants to pass on his mantle. No one will beg you to grow up and urge you to practice. Han Feng was wrong in that he mistook Huangquan Dao Fu for his past sect. His growth was not for anyone to see. This is Huangquan Dao Fu, which can give you a lot of wealth and status. But the premise is that you have to have enough strength to get all of this. Sudan was in the Huangquan Road passage when he suddenly received a message. He took out the token. Silver knife. Sudan responded. The only ones who dared to send him a message at this time were the Silver Knife Realm God and the Azure King of Yama Palace, who were close to him. The Azure King of Yama Palace did not want to disturb Sudan, but the Silver Knife Realm God was curious. Haven't you entered the ranking yet? The Silver Knife Realm God got Sudan's response and immediately said, yeah. Still waiting. At his level, there are only 8 people who can be matched on the surface. These 8 have not entered the ranking yet. Haha. You are so fierce. If I compete with you in this limelight, it's okay if I win, but if I lose, I will be stepped on by your name. Who wants to be said in the future and carry the reputation of someone who lost to you? Sudan. The Silver Knife Realm God laughed. This book was recently updated on #@. Update. Sudan was speechless. Yes, the top 10 list is clear. Sudan only needs to win. His ranking will rise again. The one who loses will naturally drop. Moreover, if he wins, he will not be promoted to Shuriken, and if he loses, he will lose points. The main reason is that you have won 8 battles and 8 games, and you have won all the way. Your combat power is too high. The only ones who can match you are those who have also won 8 battles and 8 games or 9 battles and 9 games. The voice of the Silver Knife Realm God was full of excitement. You don't know that now the kings of the East Peak and the West Peak are all in a turmoil, stimulated by your sudden rush to the top. I won't say more. I have prepared good wine, waiting to celebrate for you. Sudong couldn't help but smile. Okay. The communication was cut off. Sudong looked at the list in front of him calmly. If you don't come to the ranking match, I will challenge you. You have won 9 games and 9 matches, but you can't just not participate in the ranking match. Either you play the promotion match once a month, or you have to rank with me. I don't believe that you have played the promotion match this month. Sudong grinned. His eyes fell on the name of the king named Zenqiu who ranked 8th. It's you. Who made you so close to me? Sudong was about to activate the Daofu order and send a challenge request to the king Zenqiu. Suddenly, a suction came. Sudong's divine body instantly appeared in the Huangquan Road arena. Is the match successful? At this moment, the Silver Knife Realm God suddenly couldn't send a message to Sudong. The Shura King of the Yama Palace was also looking forward to it. It seems to have begun. The ranking battle has begun. Is it 8 wins in 8 games or the top of the list? Everyone who was paying attention to the King's Ladder ranking was closely watching the ranking. Sudong ranked 9th, followed closely by Aingeluo ranked 10th. Chapter 471 King First. On the eastern peak of Buzhao Mountain, there is a luxurious cave. A gentle-looking young man is sitting on a chair in the cave. In front of him is a bold strong man. How long have we been in Buzhao Mountain? It's been more than 16 years. No matter how it was when we came, we were all considered top kings and geniuses in our respective sects and eras. The bold strong man's voice was low and his face was serious. They used to think that they were extremely talented and brilliant, but after coming to Huangquan Daofu, they found that what genius is the most abundant here is genius. Not only are the geniuses of the same period terrifying, but the geniuses who are constantly rising are also dazzling. I really want to fight with this Sudong. No. This Sudong can rush into the top 10 so quickly, he must have a big breakthrough. Hold on, you must not let him step on you to rush up. The young man sitting in the middle looked ugly. They were all kings who had been ranked in the top 8 and had been dominating the list. They were all preparing for the promotion match. But at this time, Sudong suddenly appeared and refreshed their cognition. Hold on, our goal is the promotion match. Everything else is secondary. But I'm afraid that Sudong will challenge us. I've already participated in a qualifying match this month, so I can refuse him. The young king smiled. I haven't. The bold king looked unhappy. In addition to them, the other 6 kings who occupied the top 8 of the King's Ladder list were all worried and concerned. They were afraid that Sudong would challenge one of them. This Sudong rushed too fast and was too popular. Before they figured out the true combat power limit of Sudong, no one wanted to be the touchstone. The top 8, they knew each other well, and their strengths were actually not much different. They were not a threat to each other. But Sudong only entered Huangquan Daofu for a year, and he broke into the top 10 of the ladder list. This growth rate is too terrifying, far exceeding everyone on the current King's Ladder list. Suddenly, starting to rank? This Sudong started to rank? Is it a challenge or a match? The 8 kings immediately paid attention, and through their own connections, in an instant, they knew that it was not any of the 8 of them. It's not us. Who is it? Look at the 10th one, it's Aingeluo. Aingeluo failed in the promotion match half a month ago. Today, he won 8 games, and rushed to 10th place. He is in the ranking. Aingeluo is fighting against Sudong. Countless kings stared with wide eyes. Even Beifan, Qiji Huayang and others were extremely concerned. Aingeluo, that terrible king. Is he fighting against Sudong? Beifan sighed. He was defeated by Aingeluo in the previous ranking match. That Aingeluo, it can be said, that his fighting power has reached the limit of the king. Whether it is divine power, realm, soul, body movement, magic power, all aspects are extremely balanced and have no weaknesses. I lost in one encounter, and I had no power to resist at all. Beifan felt that Sudong should be much stronger than himself, but that Aingeluo was too abnormal, too evil. Sudong's chance of defeating that Aingeluo was not great. Sudong vs. Aingeluo? Liu Tong's eyes contained madness. Aingeluo, all the kings who have participated in the ranking battle know this name. He is a well-deserved number 1 in the king ladder list. His combat power once occupied the top of the list. There were also kings who challenged him, but they were all defeated without exception. The king is invincible. Only King Shura can defeat him. Haha, there is hope. Luo will definitely put an end to Sudang. He will. Han Feng is looking forward to it again. Luo, in an exquisite and elegant cave in Dangfeng. The goddess Yuling is also paying attention to this battle. Compared with the King Sudang of the same period, she pays more attention to Luo. As a peerless goddess, she naturally has a wide social circle. Luo is also a king with whom she has a good relationship. After several discussions, the goddess Yuling also understands Luo's foundation and strength better. Sudang's talent is terrible. No one among our kings of the same period can defeat him, but can he fight against Luo? Reason tells him that Sudang's chance of winning is not great. If Sudang defeats Luo, it will be really against the sky. Silver Knife Realm God, Zhaozu and other kings are looking forward to it. Luo is a demon who is known as the number 1 king, while Sudang is a genius with amazing talent. The two of them collide. Who is stronger, and who is weaker? There are too many kings who are paying attention to this battle, and it has even attracted the attention of many Shura kings. The Shura kings of the 10 palaces are all paying attention. In the Yellow Spring Road, golden waves are floating. Sudang is standing on the ring, and looking at the golden waves. Here it comes. Sudang's eyes lit up. A figure instantly landed on the opposite side of the ring. The figure was wrapped in flowing light, and the flowing light dissipated to reveal a young man in a white robe. The young man was stepping on a flying sword, pinching the sword formula in his hand, and his eyes were faintly glowing with purple light. The eyes were looking at Sudang. Sudang who won 8 battles and 8 wins? Yes. Sudang nodded and smiled. Which one of the top 8 are you? He only knew the names of the top 8, but not their appearance. After all, there are many kings in the Yellow Spring Dao mansion, and no one dares to say that they know all of them, let alone a king like him who has been in seclusion for a year. Ranked 10th, Luo. The young man in front also grinned. Sudang was slightly moved. Luo, who once dominated the first place in the king's ladder list, and was known as the king's number 1. His combat power was said to be invincible. How did he match him? Sudang didn't know that Luo had rushed to 10th place, and he was matched with him as soon as he rushed to it. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Are you scared? The sword light flashed in Luo's eyes. Haha. Come on, if I beat you, I will go to the promotion match. Sudang laughed. Boom. The violent and deep black sword light and shadow suddenly burst out from his body, easily covering his entire body. A pair of black blade wings stretched out behind him, and the blade wings gently flapped, and the terrible power flowed in it. The entire Dharma body of the King of 10,000 Swords was completed in one go, and Sudang turned into a tall body covered with sword light. Endless sword lights were intertwined and entangled, like a peerless sword king. Compared with the time when Sudang used the King of 10,000 Swords Dharma body in the battle with Liu Tong at Shanhei Peak, the King of 10,000 Swords was now smoother, and the power of the entire sword technique was further improved. Every bit of divine power was integrated into one, without any waste. The strength was also more terrifying. The King of 10,000 Swords. The famous skill of the Master of Pan's Hang Mountain. Luo narrowed his eyes slightly. Whoosh. Luo moved the sword formula in his hand, and 2 broad purple sword lights suddenly burst out from his fingertips. In an instant, they shot in front of Sudang. Puff. A dark sword light flashed. The 2 broad sword lights instantly shattered and disintegrated. The sword light burst out, leaving 2 hideous scratches on the ring. Interesting. You can't just rely on this sword technique to get into the top 10. Use your full strength, or you won't have a chance. Luo's divine body stepped on the divine sword, and floated in the air. Another sword light shot out from behind him. He had a relaxed smile on his face. I'm different from other kings. He pointed at Sudang. Boom. Suddenly, the sword light formed a purple mad dragon. The purple mad dragon circled around him, and its amazing power soared into the sky, like a raging sea, emitting endless vitality and mysterious fluctuations. The way of life. Sudang's eyes condensed slightly. This was the first king he met in the ranking battle who was good at the mystery of the way of life. Go. Sudan flapped the blade wings behind him. Countless sword lights burst out instantly, and a large number of dark sword lights and sword shadows bombarded Aang Eluo like a bombardment. Roar. The purple mad dragon hovering around Aang Eluo swam its tail, roared to the sky, and shook out purple Deo patterns, each of which was a sword shadow. Accompanied by a loud roar, Sudan's sword light and Aang Eluo's sword shadow collided in the air. At that moment, the entire Huanquan Road arena was broken into two. The violent power made the Huanquan waves roll, and the waves soared into the sky. In a confrontation, both of them felt the power of the other. Chapter 472, Unbeatable Body Movement. The mighty power spread in all directions. The swordsmanship of the King of 10,000 Swords is indeed extraordinary. Only the realm god can block my dragon sword technique. Aang Eluo's laughter came from mid-air. But just being powerful is nothing. A fairy sword suddenly appeared in the hand of Aang Eluo, who was suspended in the air. The fairy sword was emitting colorful rays of light. The 7-colored rays of light reflected the power of his swordsmanship. Fly the sword to cut the void. Go. He is a sword fairy at the level of the fairy king. He is best at killing enemies with flying swords, which are different from the divine body. In terms of killing, the flying sword is more powerful, more flexible, more elegant and terrifying. The sword light wrapped by the 7-colored flying sword is more condensed and faster than his purple dragon sword. It contains another mystery of the way of life. Although Sudan does not understand, he can faintly glimpse the murderous intent in it. The way of life and death contains killing, and the killing contained in the way of life is no worse than the way of death, but it is less weird. It crushed him head on. It easily tore through his many sword lights. No king has ever been able to stop my sword. Die. In Aang Eluo's eyes, purple light flashed wildly, which contained many magical sword techniques. Boom. In a blink of an eye, the 7-colored flying sword directly hit Sudan. Sudan, who maintained the Dharma body of the King of 10,000 Swords, was directly blasted back. The sword light on his chest was blasted directly into a big hole. The terrible sword light almost penetrated his divine body. What a powerful flying sword. Sudan narrowed his eyes slightly, and then black and white light appeared in front of him. The black and white light turned into two lines. The two lines flashed, and easily avoided the 7-colored sword light that was coming again. Then a pair of blade wings instantly crossed the sky and directly tore through the swimming purple dragon. In an instant, Sudan's body speed reached a dazzling and frightening level. The black and white light flashed, and Aang Eluo's 7-colored flying sword could not catch up, and his body suspended in the air had to dodge in a hurry. Wow. 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 The pitch black blade wings were like the sickle of the god of death. They shuttled through the black and white light. The black and white light was extremely strange. Aang Eluo controlled the colorful flying sword and tried to intercept it, but it was always a little short, just that little short, a little short, or 1,000 miles away. Swish, a flash of black light passed through his long sleeves. Not good. Aang Eluo was shocked. This Sudan is actually very good at body movement. The power of Cheyenne Waitian swordsmanship was strong, which was within his expectations, but Sudan's body movement was also so strong. This was unexpected. The black and white light intertwined, and his flying sword couldn't catch up. Trouble. Aang Eluo's face changed suddenly. In terms of divine power realm, swordsmanship power, and soul magic, he could suppress Sudan in any aspect, but Sudan's body movement magic was so amazing. It was amazing. Aang Eluo and Shura King had fought more than once, but the Shura King's body movement skills may be stronger than Sudan's, but there is definitely no more amazing body movement skills than Sudan's. The black and white lines flashed, and the body movement was unrestrained. It refreshed his understanding of the body movement skills. He is still a world god, and his divine power realm is not pure enough. If he is given more time, his divine power realm will break through. The Cheyenne Waitian sword technique is combined with this body movement. Aang Eluo's face changed while stepping on the flying sword to dodge. Even if he is an opponent at this moment, he has to admire that Sudan's body movement is too terrible. The potential is even more terrible. The flash of black and white light is simply a dividing line that amazes the world. Perfect, amazing, and unpredictable. Sudan performed the body movement skills, waving the long sword in his hand. He controlled the Dharma body of the King of 10,000 Swords to attack Luo again and again. Relying on the advantage of the body movement skills, he did not need to resist Luo's attack at all and attacked as much as he could. But under such an attack, Sudang also admired him more and more. No wonder Luo is called the #1 king. He has been at the top of the ladder list for many years. His flying sword has terrifying power and his flying trajectory is also extraordinary. Every time Sudang's sword light attacked, Luo could always step on the flying sword to dodge, just like a fallen leaf dancing in the wind, erratic, and sometimes a flying sword shot out. His flying sword technique. It feels like the wind. It should be a top-notch body movement technique. He created a body movement technique based on time and space, but the predecessors were infinitely wise, and there were even more extraordinary body movement techniques circulating. Luo stagnated at the king level for such a long time. He had already practiced the body movement technique to perfection. If Sudang also spent so much time, his body movement technique would be at a higher level. Because it was a self-created body movement technique, it was naturally more suitable for him. The two fought while looking for each other's flaws, and at the same time, they understood each other's methods more and more. Once they understood, Luo was completely amazed by Sudang. Sudang admired Luo. One of them is the most gifted, the other is the most powerful king. A strong clash. Although his body movements are amazing, his sword skills are still inferior to mine, and his divine power realm is also inferior to mine. In this battle, I will win in the end. Luo's face became serious, and the sword tactics in his hand changed. Suddenly, the space around him suddenly twisted, and dots of light flashed. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of flying swords appeared. No more delay. Sword control technique. 1000 Swords chapter. Thousands of flying swords were like thousands of gorgeous meteors. They instantly blasted towards Sudang. Sudang's face changed when he saw the thousands of flying swords. Luo's divine power realm and sword skills were all superior to his. These thousands of flying swords were even more terrifying. Each one made him feel his scalp numb and his divine body tremble. Can't let a divine sword touch me, or I'll die. Fight. Extreme mode activated. Boom. It exploded, and the entire ring was completely transformed into a sea of falling swords and a space-time interweaving of black and white lines. Sudang's body movement skills were used to the limit, and the black and white lines seemed to penetrate time and space, shuttling between the gaps in time and space. Fast. Extremely fast. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. What? Luo, who thought he had won, widened his eyes and looked at the black and white lines in front of him in shock. His 1000 Swords chapter was a killing move. Sudang actually dodged it with his body movement skills. A big killing move blasted into the air. Doesn't this mean that his killing move is completely ineffective? Fast, fast, fast. Extreme mode. Power reaches the limit. Speed reaches the limit. Speed increases tenfold. It turns out to feel so good. Sudang was completely immersed in this feeling. Thousands of sword lights. They couldn't even touch the corner of his clothes. This is the horror of a strong body movement flow. To some extent, the body movement flow is also called the undefeated flow. Not to say invincible, but you can stand in an invincible position. Suddenly, a terrible sense of oppression came. Sudang's face changed. He looked at Luo fiercely. At this moment, Luo's long hair was flying, and thousands of sword lights were floating in front of him. Suddenly, his sword gestures moved, and his face turned pale as paper in an instant. Thousands of sword lights dissipated. Sudang's divine body suddenly stopped. Sudang. Luo stared at him from a distance with a pale face. I have one more move. If you can still dodge this move, I will automatically admit defeat. Sudang was slightly stunned. Sword control technique. 10,000 swords return to the origin. Luo suddenly pointed at Sudang below. Boom. Suddenly, hundreds of sword lights floating around him merged into one. Transformed into a purple sword that was as bright as the sun. The sword was 1,000 feet long. It fell straight down. Not good. Sudang's face changed. This flying sword is 1,000 feet long. It falls from above and covers the entire arena. No matter how amazing my body movements are, I can't avoid it. I was going to use this move in the promotion match. I should be proud that you forced me to use it. Aang Luo's face was stern. This was the truth. Sudong's body movements were too terrifying. But Sudong's face was ugly. The king of 10,000 swords Dharma body stretched to the limit. Boom. The 1,000-foot-long sword light fell. The terrifying power burst out instantly, mighty and mighty, just like a star falling, mountains collapsing, the earth cracking, the sky falling, and the earth sinking. Damn. Sudong burst out with a swear word. The king of 10,000 swords Dharma body was easily shattered. Then his eyes went black. In the ranking of the king's ladder, Sudong's name disappeared instantly, and he fell out of the rank of 19 crown king. His combat power even fell outside the top 100. But another name stood out from the crowd, and was listed high in the first place. Ranked first, 19 crown king Aang Luo, 9 wins in 9 battles. At this moment, many kings were silent. Many Shura kings sighed. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 473 Huanquandeo Fruit Reward. Sudong lost to Aang Luo. In the Heavenly Palace, King Yama of Yama Hall silently followed the final ranking of the King's Ladder ranking. Seeing Sudong's ranking fall out of the top 100 in an instant, he couldn't help but shake his head slightly. He lost, probably because of his divine power realm, but it's already extraordinary enough for a world god to be in the top 10. King Shura of Yama Hall was already very satisfied. In this ranking battle, Sudong not only proved his strength, but also proved his potential and talent. In 1 year, no matter if he has a big breakthrough in swordsmanship, or has realized some magical skills in other aspects, he can reach this point. It's a big improvement in strength. Meeting Aang Luo. Aang Luo is a super king who has dominated the top of the King's Ladder ranking for several years, and has played countless promotion matches. Losing to Aang Luo is not shameful. I just don't know what breakthrough he made. If he really realized a Taoist magic, it would be a great harvest. If there is a new progress in swordsmanship, the 7th level of Cheyenne Waishan swordsmanship can indeed make the power rise again. Sudong's swordsmanship talent is good. But compared to the breakthrough of his own magic, the surprise for me is not good. The Shura King of Yama Palace said secretly. Compared with the breakthrough of swordsmanship, the Shura King of Yama Palace hoped that Sudong would create a new Taoist magic. That would be a big breakthrough and a big surprise. Now he has just finished the ranking battle. I will ask him in a while. He was not in a hurry. The long years gave him plenty of patience. Lost. The Silver Sword Realm God flew towards Sudong's cave with fine wine. Qi Jiuang, Liu Tong, Bei Fan and others were silently paying attention to the name at the top of the King's Ladder list. At this moment, this name made them feel suffocated, and the pressure doubled. At the same time, they felt that it was indeed difficult to become the Shura King within 3 years. Aang Luo is too strong. I'm in front of him. A single divine sword technique can defeat me. He can't even make it through the promotion match. Bei Fan sighed. The pressure is too great. Lost. Qi Jiuang felt that Sudong should have made a big breakthrough. But he still lost to Aang Luo, which further proved that Aang Luo was extremely terrifying. Haha, good loss, good loss. Han Feng looked crazy, but then he showed nervousness again. If I lose this time, then Sudong is also an 18 crown king, above me, and with his strength, he can easily rush to the ladder again. No, I have to surpass him, and can't be suppressed by him all the time. Practice, practice. Crazy. Han Feng was completely stimulated. He was extremely competitive. His strong competitive spirit made his mind easily affected, but it also made him never lazy. When he felt that others surpassed him, he began to work 10 times and 100 times harder. He can become one of the 9 kings who won the Mountain and Sea Seal. Prove that he has the potential to become a strong man. East Peak of Buzhao Mountain. A clergyman flew to Sudong's sword tower with a decree. Goddess Mingjing, is King Sudong here? This clergyman was also at the level of a divine emperor. But his attitude was very respectful. His level of strength was not enough in front of these perverted kings. The king is practicing. Goddess Mingjing stood outside the palace. King Sudan would be amazing if he did not make a name for himself. Now many Shura kings in the entire Dao mansion are talking about King Sudan. They all say that King Sudan has terrible talent and is the best in the past 10,000 years. The clergyman flattered and then handed over the decree and an exquisite storage bag. This is a Dao fruit rewarded by the Dao mansion for King Sudan's breakthrough to the 19th crown king level. Since King Sudan is in seclusion, Goddess Mingjing will pass it on. Goddess Mingjing took the tray. She watched the clergyman leave. Turning to look at the daughter, her eyes were also slightly shocked. Master has become very famous this time and has attracted the attention of the Shura kings of the entire Daofu. Reputation is very important. In history, there are not many kings who are amazing and famous for a period of time. Many of them eventually cultivated into the Holy Spirit Void Ancestor. Some even became powerful as the Shura kings of the 10 palaces. For example, the Shura king of the Yama palace and the Lord king of Pan's Hang mountain. They all became famous when they were kings. Sudan is so talented that he naturally attracts attention. Goddess Mingjing walked into the sword tower. In the center of the largest room in the palace, Sudan was sitting cross-legged. His face was serious, and his mind was still recalling the previous battle with Aang Eluo in the Yellow Spring Passage. If I lose, if my divine power realm is higher, or if I practice the 7th level of Cheyenne Waishan sword technique, I still have a chance to fight with Aang Eluo. Sudong said secretly. In the past, his body movement skills were his shortcomings, but now, if he wants to challenge the threshold of Shura King, the divine power realm has become his shackles. The sword that Aang Eluo used in the end covered the entire Huangquan arena. There was no way to avoid it. We could only fight head on. He said that he prepared that sword for the promotion match. He must not be exaggerating. The power of that sword is close to the level of the Holy Spirit Void Ancestor, but it can't even make it through the promotion match. Sudong suddenly felt a little unbelievable. This promotion match seemed to be a little abnormal. Forget it. I don't want to think about it anymore. I'll make it through the ranking match this time. At least it proves my body movement skills, which is enough. Sudong stood up and no longer thought about the ranking match. If he lost, he lost. The outcome of a ranking match would not affect his state of mind. At this time, the goddess Mingjing just walked in, holding a decree and a storage bag in her hands. Master, this is the Huangquan Dao fruit and the decree of Master Wang awarded by the Taoist mansion. Sudong's eyes lit up. I have made it to the 19th crown of the king. According to the rules, I should have 600,000 Huangquan Dao fruits. Sudong took the storage bag. A sweep of his soul. This book has been updated recently in Update. Why 700,000? Sudong was shocked. Did he miscalculate? Then he opened the decree of Master Wang. After a closer look, Sudong laughed. The meaning of the decree was roughly that Master Wang felt that Sudong had extraordinary talent and had achieved such results within a year, so he specially rewarded him with an extra 100,000 Huangquan Dao fruits, hoping that Sudong would continue to work hard and become stronger. Huangquan Dao mansion is to train them. Why train them? Naturally, they hope that they will be as strong as possible. The better you perform, the more training the Dao mansion will do. Thank you, Master Wang. Sudong held the decree respectfully and bowed to the void from a distance. Master, you now have many Huangquan Dao fruits in your hands. You can go to Myoshu Peak to exchange for Myoshu, or go to Lingzang Peak to exchange for divine fruit treasures, or go to Shenbao Mountain to exchange for divine artifacts and magic treasures. In these 3 years, although the Dao mansion will not assign any tasks to the master, 3 years will pass quickly. The master should not waste the Dao fruits. For normal kings, the Dao mansion will issue tasks every year. This is a duty and obligation of every king, and it cannot be declined or evaded. Of course, for kings like Sudong who worshipped under the 10 Palace Ashura kings through the king's decisive battle, only the 10 Palace Ashura kings could give orders. They only need to obey the 10 Palace Ashura kings, and they will be more comfortable in the next 3 years, without having to do any tasks. Well, I know. Sudong nodded. The tasks of Huangquan Daofu, some are taken voluntarily, and some are assigned. Generally, the degree of danger of the assigned tasks varies, and the rewards of the Daofu are also extraordinary, but the assigned tasks cannot be shirked. Those who take them voluntarily can give up at any time. And every king, Shura King, has a task bottom line every year, and must complete one. At this time, Huanquandeo fruit once again reflects its importance. 40 Huanquandeo fruits can offset the bottom line of task execution for a year. As long as there is no assigned task, you can practice with peace of mind. Sudong thought to himself. Huanquandeo fruit is extremely useful. It really can't be spent carelessly. Goddess Mingjing withdrew. Sudong flipped his hand and took out the Book of Life and Death. The artifact of the Book of Life and Death emits a hazy golden light. I have enough Huanquandeo fruit in my hand now. It's time to extend Feng Lao's life. Chapter 474. Fighting with King Shura. Sudong used his divine power to activate the Book of Life and Death, and easily found the life information of Feng Lao Rangzi. Change life, return to life. But the divine power activated the Book of Life and Death, and a strong golden light suddenly shot up into the sky. Sudong used his divine power as a pen, and at the same time, used the yellow spring Dao fruit as a resource and the divine blood as a guide, to enter the Book of Life and Death. This Book of Life and Death, which has a great reputation since ancient times, has a mysterious power. In the void of the medieval times, far away from Mount Buzhao, in a small world, a dark temple was floating above an ocean in this small world. In the temple, Sudong's 5-colored stone clone had already told Feng Lao Rangzi that he had begun to change his life and return to life. Feng Lao Rangzi's body seemed to have substance, but if you look closely, you can still find that it is a hazy shadow. She was originally a goddess of the ancient Feng Lao country, but she was implicated because Feng Lao Yu lost the battle for the position of the king. Even her master, the Holy Spirit Void Ancestor, could not protect her. In the end, she had to hastily reincarnate in the void, and the ending was forced to be interrupted, and she was trapped in the state of neither life nor death. Feng Lao Rangzi's lifespan was not over yet, and she had the Book of Life and Death. Sudong invested a lot of Huanquandeo fruit, which could naturally make her return to life. At the moment when the Book of Life and Death burst into golden light, Feng Lao Rangzi, who was sitting cross-legged in the void temple, suddenly fell from the 3-inch space above her head. The golden runes fell on Feng Lao Rangzi's head. With each rune that merged into her body, Feng Lao Rangzi's body became clearer. Feng Lao's yin shao is very deep. The Huanquandeo fruit he spent is more than I originally expected. It's estimated to be around 600,000. Sudong thought to himself, 600,000 Huanquandeo fruits can hire Shura King as a guardian. In the eyes of many super kings of Huanquandeo Mansion, it is a huge fortune. Wang Zhenren rewards him with hundreds of thousands. But Sudong didn't feel distressed. After such a long time together, he has already regarded Feng Lao Rangzi as a relative. This is what he should do, and what he wants to do. Feng Lao Rangzi felt the golden rune merge into her body. It was extremely warm and soft. The heartbeat from her heart also made her blood boil. For a long time, she almost forgot this feeling. This is a real life. This is a real life. Wow. Suddenly, the golden rune condensed. Sudong's face changed. Feng Lao Rangzi also opened his eyes and looked at Sudong with doubt. Is someone trying to stop Feng Lao from returning to life? Sudong's face was grim. He invested a lot of Huanquandeo fruit, and someone intercepted him halfway. Sudong, isn't this a bit tricky? Or let it go first, I can wait. Feng Lao Rangzi spoke quickly. After all, Sudong had just become the king of Huanquandeo Fu, and his foundation was still shallow. Investing too much in her was not worth it. It's a small matter, I'll contact a king. Sudong's 5-colored stone clone had a cold face. In Buzhao Mountain, in the Sword Tower, Sudong's Tuosh body was even more murderous. How did the ancient country of Feng Lao deal with Feng Lao in the past? No wonder even Feng Lao's master didn't dare to protect him. I was attacked for her return to life now. Is it an old account of another king? A king once crossed out Feng Lao Rangzi's lifespan in the Book of Life and Death, turning yang into yin. Sudong is now paying off this old account for Feng Lao, and someone is attacking and stopping him? I want to see who is crossing it out. Sudong immediately sensed through the Book of Life and Death. A sense. A distant void. The residence of a shuriken who has long guarded the void in the Middle Ages. This residence. It is as big as the world, and the residence is so wide. He is the shuriken under the shuriken of Byanji Palace. He is extraordinary, and has the rank of 3-crown shuriken. His name is Zhangzhen, and he likes to enjoy life. When he became a king, he was just an ordinary king. He had never even been to Mount Buzhou. In the long years, he had the opportunity to become the Holy Spirit Void Ancestor. But now he is only a 3-crown shuriken, but he also controls the Book of Life and Death. The Yin life I wrote down at the beginning. Someone is changing the account now. The account of a shuriken who controls the Book of Life and Death was changed by someone, which was a provocation to him. I'm the shuriken who dares to touch my account. Zhangzhen sensed along the Book of Life and Death. A king? A king controls the Book of Life and Death. Zhangzhen immediately felt extraordinary. The king controls the Book of Life and Death. They are often super kings, very evil. But after guarding the void for a long time, he was also considered a frontier official. The enjoyment of this period of time and the strength of the Holy Spirit Void Ancestor made him accustomed to being high and mighty. A king, a monster. So what? Junior brother Sudong. A high and cold voice sounded. At this time, Sudong, who was sensing in Buzhou Mountain, heard this voice instantly. Suddenly, his brows furrowed even more. Huangquan Daofu is not an ordinary sect. There is no distinction between senior brothers and junior brothers. This voice directly calls himself junior brother. It is not in line with the rules. But he also learned who the other party is. Zhangzhen Shuriken, under the command of Byanji Palace Shuriken. Sudong's face was ugly. It was this shuriken who urged the Book of Life and Death to strike him to change his account. Before Sudong spoke, the voice of Zhangzhen Shuriken continued to come. This Fenglao Rang's Yin life is not over, and he cannot return to the world. Junior brother does not need to intervene. Dao fruit is hard to come by. Junior brother must cherish it. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Her Yin lifespan has not yet ended. I will pay for her Yin lifespan. Zhangzhen Shuriken does not need to interfere. Just don't stop it. Sudong said. Zhangzhen Shuriken's face changed. There was a cold light in his eyes. This Sudong is so arrogant. He was not in Buzhou Mountain and did not know Sudong at all. But a king is so arrogant? Haha, then it's up to you. But no one can change the account I set. Zhangzhen Shuriken sneered. Then he ignored Sudong. Sudong sat in the Dota with an ugly face. Is Zhangzhen Shuriken against me? You care so much about Fenglao? How much bribes did you receive at the beginning? Kings, shurikens modify the Book of Life and Death, mostly for money. Increasing or decreasing lifespan is a common thing. Sudong has done it too. But no one did it as outrageously as Zhangzhen Shuriken. He is the shuriken, and I'm the king. Although I control the Book of Life and Death, I can't do anything to him. So let it go. Wait until I become the shuriken. Sudong tightly grasped the Book of Life and Death in his hand. He can wait. Can Fenglao wait? But go to the shuriken of Byanji Palace? Sudong shook his head. He went to the shuriken of Byanji Palace to ask for a favor. Why should the shuriken of the 10th palace give him a favor? As for the shuriken of Yama Palace, the shuriken Zhangzhen was not under the control of the shuriken of Yama Palace. Sudong didn't want to use the favor of the shuriken of Yama Palace to do things. If it doesn't work, take all my Huangquandao fruits. 1,200,000 Huangquandao fruits. Even if Zhangzhen was the shuriken, he couldn't stop Zhangzhen. If he threw 1,200,000 Huangquandao fruits, he couldn't stop the Book of Life and Death from doing things for money. But the price was too high and too unwise. Byanji Hall Shuriken was wearing a white robe. He liked to wear a white robe. Today was the 15th. He was finishing his sermon at Buzhou Mountain. He had just returned to the Heavenly Palace. That genius little guy Sudong has extraordinary talent and a good temper. He has a promising future. The status of kings was determined by their potential. Sudong was one of those with super high potential. The Lord of Panzhan Mountain was optimistic about him. He also became a member of the Yama Hall Shuriken. He had 2 tiger skins behind him. Today, he showed his potential and rushed to the top 10 of the Heavenly Ladder list. Byanji Hall Shuriken was very optimistic about him. Each of the 10 Hall Shurikings had his own area of expertise, such as Changjiang Hall Shuriking. The blood of his divine body was against the sky. The Yama Hall Shuriking's swordsmanship was extremely powerful, and Bianji Hall Shuriking. Bianji Hall Shuriking was famous for his easygoing personality and love of talents, and was best at calculations. Even Master Wan was impressed by his calculations. Thinking of Sudan at this moment, he couldn't help but count with his fingers. Who would have thought that after this calculation, a smile suddenly appeared on his face. This little guy and I are destined to be together. Chapter 475, the 7th level, Mark of Destruction. It was a small matter for him, but it was a big deal for Sudan. It has only been a year since Sudan came to Buzhao Mountain. He has been in the top 10 of the King's Ladder in 1 year. He must have made a big breakthrough. Bianji Hall Shuriking valued Sudan's potential. You should know that in this year, not only Sudan has been working hard, but other kings have also been working hard, such as Qi Jiuang. He still reached the 66th place. Beifan, Liu Tong, Jiang Jiu and others are all extraordinary. But the most evil one is Sudan. He has reached the top 10, and the top 8 kings dared not to fight. He must have made a big breakthrough. What is this breakthrough? Bianji Hall Shuriking calculated with his fingers. But he had no clue. He had previously calculated Zhang Zhen's Shuriking, because Zhang Zhen's Shuriking and him had a relationship, and cause and effect. Sudan's breakthrough was Sudan's own business, plus Sudan's luck covered it. He couldn't calculate it out of thin air. Big breakthrough, in my opinion. This Sudan may become one of the rare kings in history. He was very optimistic about Sudan. Of course, everything was still early. At this moment, the Shuriking of Bianji Palace suddenly received a message. The King's Ladder ranking changed again. On Mount Buzhao, many kings, some discovered it at the first time, and some received the message. Sudan was in the Dota, and felt that the Shuriking of Bianji Palace was showing him kindness, and of course he also remembered this favor. The Silver Knife Realm God had already flown directly to his cave with fine wine. Sudan. As long as Sudan was not in seclusion, the goddess of the mirror would not stop the Silver Knife Realm God. Silver Knife, what's the matter so urgent? Sudan came out with a smile. Big news. Just now, on my way to your cave, Aingluo passed the promotion match and became a crowned Shuriking. The Silver Knife Realm God said. Sudan was stunned. Become the Shuriking? He suddenly recalled what Aingluo said when he used his last killer move during the battle. He should have just learned that sword and came to the ranking battle and used it to break through the promotion match. It was normal for him to lose to that sword. The level of that sword had long reached the level of the Shuriking. This is pretty good. At least it proves that the promotion match is not that difficult. There is hope. Sudan smiled. This Aingluo was specially recruited into the Dao mansion by the Shuriking of the Wheel Hall. His talent are even better than mine. He entered Buzhao Mountain and broke through to the 18th Crown King in 1 year, but it took him 9 years to pass the promotion match and become the Shuriking. The Silver Knife Realm God sighed and took out a wine glass to pour wine for himself and Sudan. Sudan nodded slightly. The Shurikings of the 10 palaces all set goals for their kings. If they can become the Shuriking within 3 years, they will have generous rewards. For example, the Shuriking of the Yama Hall set a reward of 200,000 Huanquandao fruits for him. At the beginning, every king was very excited and wanted to rush for the reward. In fact, from the 9th crown to the 18th crown, it was not bad. The difficulty for them was not great. The most terrifying thing was the promotion match. The difficulty of the promotion match. It completely frightened every king. It took Aingluo 9 years to get through the promotion match. So what about them? It is too difficult to become the Shuriking in 3 years. But Sudan, you have hope. When are you going to rush to rank again? At least get into the top 10. The Silver Knife Realm God smiled. No hurry, it's useless to rush higher in the King's Ladder list. Our goal is to become the Shuriking. Sudan drank the wine. That's you. My goal is not big. I will set a small goal for myself first. Within 3 years, I will be satisfied if I can get to the 19th Crown King and rank on the ladder list with my combat power. The Silver Knife Realm God shook his head. At night, The spiritual energy of Buzz Hao Mountain is strong and thin. The slightly cool spiritual energy gathers into a group of fluorescent mist under the moonlight at night. It was like a veil on a beautiful woman's pretty face, covering the magnificence and elegance of Mount Buzz Hao. I haven't been drunk for a long time. The wine brought by Yindao is also the collection of the Saint Lord of Jiuhua Mountain. It's really different. Sudong shook his head and walked out of the sword tower, looking up at the crescent moon in the sky. There was a lazy smile on the corner of his mouth. The Saint Lord of Jiuhua Mountain was also a giant in the void in the Middle Ages. His strength and status were extraordinary. In the past, he was high in his eyes, but now with the improvement of his own strength and status, he can drink the wine of the Saint Lord of Jiuhua Mountain. The wine of that person was for the Holy Spirit Zuzu to drink. The Holy Spirit Zuzu would get drunk after drinking it, not to mention him, a small world god. The wine is good, and it even feels like it has improved my divine body a lot. After the relaxation, it's time to practice. He broke into the top 10 of the King's Ladder list, and Aang Luo was promoted to Shura King. These are just a few small waves. Seizing every minute to practice is what he should do. Sudong's figure flashed and went straight into the eternal time and space. Wow. A picture book appeared in front of him. The book was 9 meters long and 9 meters wide. A faint light was suspended in the picture. The faint light flickered, and there were strange phantoms gathering in it. The 7th level of Xian Wei Xian Dao Fa, the pattern of destruction. This book was recently updated in #at. Update. Sudong stood in front of the picture book and his eyes fell on the faint light in the picture book. Buzz. A scene was reflected in a page of Buddhist scriptures above the Zumi Buddha kingdom in the Soul Sea. It was vaguely seen that it was the phantom of Sudong's figure who swung a knife. That knife was extremely strange. It was built on the basis of the Dharma body of the King of 10,000 Swords. The knife was out, containing incredible mysteries, weirdness, magic, and people could not understand it. The pattern of destruction. According to legend, the power of mastering this knife is close to the top invincible of the Divine Emperor Immortal Emperor. The real invincibility has touched the threshold of the power of the Holy Spirit Void Ancestor. Once my swordsmanship is further improved, with my current body skills, I can easily pass the promotion match and become the Shura King. After comprehending the 7th level of Xian Wei Xian swordsmanship, Sudong's strength will surely soar. And with the help of a page of Buddhist scriptures, this sword is completely presented in front of Sudong, without any secrets, completely presented. Sudong tried to imitate it again and again. This is not the first time Sudong has observed and studied. Gradually, Sudong also glimpsed some mysteries. The pattern of destruction, a faint light. There are a total of 108 swordsmanship. If I hadn't fought against Aang Luo, I wouldn't understand it, but I have fought against Aang Luo. His last sword inspired me. Aang Luo's final sword, Wanjian Gizeng, was thousands of flying swords and sword lights condensed into one, turning into that terrible sword, which directly defeated him. Similarly, the 7th level of Xian Wei Xian swordsmanship is to merge 108 swordsmanship into one, turning it into a sword pattern, and this sword pattern is the 7th level of the sword. This is like a complex equation. If you interpret and analyze it as a whole, it will be extremely complex and difficult. But if you interpret it step by step, it will be much easier. Sudong was immersed in it. 108 kinds of sword techniques, which he derived, based on the annotations and hints of sword techniques. But some of them Sudong could see at a glance, and some of them, he couldn't see at all. There are 63 sword techniques I can see now. Start with these 63 sword techniques. When he has mastered these 63 sword techniques and integrated them, he will naturally be able to glimpse some edges and corners of other sword techniques and understand them. He was completely immersed in the study of sword techniques, and he studied them for 10 days. 100 days passed in the eternal time and space. On this day, outside the sword tower, Sudong suddenly walked out, frowned, and hesitated. He flew straight to a mountain dojo. It failed. Why did it fail? My 5-colored stone clone spent a lot of money to collect all the treasures, precious treasures used to improve the blood level, but it failed. Sudong's face was ugly. Not to mention the value of the wasted treasures. You have to know that the blood of his 5-colored stone clone is a realm shackle. If he doesn't break through, his Tush clone will not be able to break through either. Go to the hearing hall to check. Sudong was anxious. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.